Chapter 281 Misty Sea Forest. Yi Chun was unaware of everything that was happening at the 73 crossing. At this moment, Yi Chun was standing at a corner of the ferry with the three Shi brothers, watching the broad and boundless Boundary River. Bathed in the evening glow, the Boundary River sparkled, exceptionally mesmerizing. Southern Territory, Central Region, separated by a river, yet they are two different worlds. Yi Chun mused with emotion, thinking about how he was about to enter the central region of the barbaric wilderness continent, to witness a broader world and encounter more powerful figures. A hint of anticipation welled up in Yi Chun's eyes. The excitement was also mounting among the other passengers and the Shi brothers, who felt increasingly thrilled as the ferry got closer to the boundary of the central region. Finally, after drifting for almost half an hour, the ferry reached the other side of the Boundary River, the edge of the river boundary of the central region. The central region, we've finally arrived. I can finally see for myself what the three great empires of the central region look like. As the ferry docked, many who were visiting the central region for the first time shouted excitedly. Yi Chun also looked up towards the front. From the middle of the Boundary River, the view of the central region was hazy and indistinct, but once the ferry docked, Yi Chun got his first clear look at the region. The place where they docked was beneath a great city, and upon his first glance at the city, Yi Chun's heart shook. The outer walls of the city towered hundreds of feet high and stretched as far as the eye could see. The walls were built from massive blocks of greenstone, each piece likely weighing over 10,000 pounds. The entire wall exuded an ancient atmosphere that went straight to the heart. Inside the walls, shadows of enormous pavilions loomed in the dusk. Atop many of those pavilions, huge pearls emitted colorful light, illuminating the vast city as if it were daytime. What a magnificent city! Probably not a single one of the 13 countries of the Southern Territory could boast such a grand city. The Great Qian Empire, Dragon Abyss City. I've heard that every ferry from the Southern Territory to the Central Region stops outside Dragon Abyss City. Entering Dragon Abyss City means you've officially stepped into the territory of the Great Qian, one of the Central Region's three great empires. Many who recognized the city were filled with emotion, and then they flew off the ferry, searching for the nearest city gate beneath the wall. Yi Chun and the three Shi brothers disembarked as well. As they were walking towards the city gate, the three Shi brothers asked Yi Chun, "Fellow Taoist Yi Chun, night has fallen. Do you plan to stay in Dragon Abyss City for the night, or will you head directly to the Tai Sword Sect?" Yi Chun said with a smile, "I won't delay any further and plan to go directly to the Tai Sword Sect. What are your plans, fellow Taoists?" "We three brothers need to stay in Dragon Abyss City for a few days," Shi Tianhe spoke. "In that case, let's part ways here," Yi Chun said, cupping his fist towards them. "I would like to thank you all for your guidance along the way." "Fellow Taoist Yi Chun, you're too polite," the Shi brothers replied, returning the gesture. Then Shi Tianhe spoke again. "I've heard that the Tai Sword Sect is tens of thousands of miles west of the Great Qian Empire, even farther than the total area of the 13 states of the Southern Territory. You should be careful on your journey, fellow Taoist." Yi Chun nodded with a smile. From the barbaric wilderness mountain and sea map, Yi Chun already knew the location of the Tai Sword Sect, so he wouldn't go in the wrong direction. After exchanging a few more pleasantries with the Shi brothers, Yi Chun's figure shifted and he disappeared into the vast night. Watching Yi Chun vanish, Shi Tianhe of the Shi brothers couldn't help but say, "Third brother, you kept reminding Yi Chun to be cautious, but I have a feeling that fellow Taoist Yi Chun might be even more formidable than us." Shi Tianjiang standing beside him also said, "I share that odd feeling. It's as though fellow Taoist Yi Chun isn't worried at all about traveling alone in the central region. Could he really be concealing his strength?" Shi Tianhe was taken aback. "No way, he's so young. Just being in the early stages of the Spirit Sea realm is already impressive. If he's hiding his true strength, that would be terrifying, wouldn't it? Anyway, fellow Taoist Yi Chun is somewhat enigmatic to me." Seeing Shi Tianhe's disbelief, Shi Tianjiang laughed and shook his head. "Well, we met by chance and probably won't encounter fellow Taoist Yi Chun again in the future. I hope he can safely reach the Taiye sword sect on his journey through the central region. Sure, Tianhai nodded. Let's be on our way too. Night has fallen, and we need to hurry to the Hall of 10,000 Treasures to see if we can complete our sect's task early. Maybe we can even make it in time to attend the sword fighting tournament in the Immeasurable Mountain. As the Shi brothers conversed, they too disappeared into the night. Not long after Yichan and the Shi brothers parted ways, the girl in white, holding a snow-white little Diaoer, abruptly appeared at the foot of the city wall of Dragon Abyss City. At this time, the girl was already 100 miles away from Yichan, but her eyes seemed to effortlessly bridge that distance as she looked directly toward Yichan. Even Yichan was incapable of extending his divine sense over such a vast distance. His furthest reach, even after cultivating the primordial star scripture and breaking through the boundaries of the true Qi realm, was only 40 miles. This distance was already quite exceptional, on par with mid-stage practitioners of the rotating pill realm. But this girl's scope was even more distant than Yi Chen's, which was truly inconceivable. While the girl surveyed the area, her eyes brightened slightly as she watched Yichan. He moves so swiftly. His movement technique is quite peculiar. Yichan left the Shi brothers and found a secluded spot to start using the Void Instantaneous Change movement technique to head out of Dragon Abyss City. Almost with every blink, he could instantaneously move dozens of miles away. By the time the girl looked in his direction, he was nearly out of Dragon Abyss City, about to enter deep within the Great Qian dynasty. I have to keep up quickly. Otherwise, if I, Mu Qingqing, get left behind, it would really be embarrassing. The girl, watching Yichan, who was getting farther and farther away, revealed a sly smile in her cunning eyes. With a faint white light flickering around her, she vanished into thin air. Dragon Abyss City. I've finally left Dragon Abyss City. Yichan used the Void Instantaneous Change technique more than 10 times, covering a distance of hundreds of miles, before he truly left the area of Dragon Abyss City. The magnitude of this first major city he encountered in the Central Territory made even Yichan exclaim in admiration. Looking back at the brightly lit city under the night sky, Yichen's true qi surged around him, and he transformed into a streak of escaping light, speeding off in the direction of Taiye Sword sect at the western frontier of the Great Qian dynasty. This flight was maintained for the better part of half a day. Only after about 1/3 of his true qi had been expended did Yichan stop to sit and rest for a while. However, Yichan had top-grade spirit stones to replenish his true qi, and with his qi meridian, 8 extraordinary meridians, and 33 meridian wheels all capable of restoring true qi, his resting speed was also extremely fast. After each brief stop, he was re-energized with true qi and continued on his way, able to fly for the better part of half a day. Such a mode of flight left the mysterious girl following him, Mu Qingqing, thoroughly impressed. If Mu Qingqing hadn't also been somewhat extraordinary, she might really have been completely lost by Yichan. Interesting. This is getting more and more interesting. On this trip, I came out in the capacity of an envoy, yet I haven't found someone who caught my eye. If he has a few more surprises up his sleeve, maybe that exceedingly valuable slot will fall into his hands. Thinking this, Mu Qingqing's eyes lit up even more. She flickered with escaping light and continued to pursue Yichan. After 13 days of flying, Yichan finally crossed most of the Great Qian dynasty, entering the Western Territories. Looking at the barbaric wilderness mountain and sea map, in another 2 or 3 days, he would officially enter the domain of the Taiye Sword sect. In these 13 days, Yichan flew non-stop, covering hundreds of thousands of miles, a distance even greater than the one he had initially covered when he left the Heavenly Wind Kingdom, traveling across several kingdoms to reach the Boundary River. This was, however, only his flight within the Great Qian dynasty. This made Yichan marvel at the vastness of the Central Territory and the Great Kingdoms. Although Yichan had been flying continuously for more than 10 days, he had encountered mysterious attacks a few times during his rests and had even passed over a dozen sites of struggle or even great battles on his way, which made him fully realize the intensity of the struggles in the Central Territory. Luckily, the most dangerous encounter along the way was an ambush by a mid-rotating pill realm loose cultivator, whom Yichan dispatched with ease, avoiding any real trouble. After entering the Western Territories, Yi Chun rested briefly for a day before continuing on the road. 2 days later, Yi Chun finally saw a vast forest appearing ahead in the distance. Misty Sea Forest. I am finally close to the territory of Taiye Sword Sect. Seeing the huge forest ahead, stretching as far as the eye could see, Yi Chun's eyes brightened. From the barbaric wilderness mountain and sea map, Yi Chun knew that this forest, called Misty Sea Forest, was the gateway forest outside the Taiye Sword Sect. Once across it, he could truly enter the territory of the Taiye Sword Sect. The Misty Sea Forest, shrouded in mist all year round, is rumored to even house high-ranking Demon Kings equivalent to late rotating Pill Realm martial artists, and quite a few of them at that. Contained within this Misty Sea Forest is one of Taiye Sword Sect's protective Grand Formations. In times of real danger, with the Grand Formation activated, the entire forest becomes a terrifying killing field. But within the Great Qian Dynasty, no sect would provoke a great sect like Taiye Sword Sect, so the protective Grand Formation hasn't been activated for the past few thousand years, as far as I've heard. Passing through this Misty Sea Forest, I'll reach the Taiye Sword Sect's Taiye City, and by crossing Taiye City, I will truly arrive at the mountain gate of the Taiye Sword Sect. Various introductions about the Misty Sea Forest and the Taiye Sword Sect flashed through Yi Chun's mind. Moments later, Yi Chun's figure once again turned into a streak of light, instantly dashing dozens of miles and plunging deep into the Misty Sea Forest. The Misty Sea Forest has arrived. This place is a rather good one. The young man ahead hasn't encountered any troubles along the way, so I haven't truly witnessed his strength yet. This place is a good test to see what his real capabilities are. Not long after Yi Chun entered the Misty Sea Forest, with a flash of escaping light, the white-clothed girl Mu Qingxing appeared just outside the forest. Murmuring to herself, the girl gently stroked the snow-white dower nestled in her arms. She then moved her rosy lips slightly, and the snow-white dower, which had been dozing off, suddenly became alert and flew out of the girl's embrace. In an instant, with a whoosh, a streak of white light flashed, and the snow-white dower dived into the Misty Sea Forest. Seeing the snow-white dower burst into the Misty Sea Forest, the girl's sly eyes smiled faintly. Before long, the previously tranquil Misty Sea Forest suddenly erupted with one roar after another from giant monsters. Chapter 282 18 Demon Kings. This Misty Sea Forest, serving as the gateway forest outside of the Taiye Sword Sect, is truly amazing. Yi Chun had planned to fly directly over the Misty Sea Forest, but the forest was under a flying restriction. With his divine sense, Yi Chun realized that it was impossible to fly over it. So, Yi Chun flew straight into the forest. As soon as he entered, he noticed that the entire forest was shrouded in a layer of milky white fog. Only by stirring his true qi could he disperse some of the fog and make out the surroundings of the forest. The trees within the forest were extraordinarily large, each standing several hundred feet tall. Perhaps 10 people together couldn't wrap their arms around one tree. Many of the trees were even species that Yi Chun had never seen before. The branches and leaves were so dense that they blotted out the sky, and combined with the pervasive fog, they left the Misty Sea Forest dimly lit. After flying in, Yi Chun released his divine sense and let his true qi surge forth, both defending against the monsters in the forest and making his way toward the other side. According to the barbaric wilderness mountain and sea map, although there were countless great demons and demon kings in the Misty Sea Forest, as long as one was cautious, it was possible to avoid these creatures and successfully cross the forest. But as Yi Chun flew several hundred miles, he suddenly heard successive roars of giant demons coming from the forest. That sound! Why does it feel like it's getting closer to me? Yi Chun sensed that these roars of the giant demons exuded an extreme fear, as if the demons were terrified. What were they afraid of? And more importantly, Yi Chun felt that the sounds were getting closer to him. It was as if countless great demons were surrounding him from all directions. This caused Yi Chun's expression to change. It was known that the Misty Sea Forest held many demon kings as powerful as cultivators in the late stages of the revolving pill realm. If surrounded by many high-ranking demon kings, that would be a huge problem. What Yi Chun didn't know was that these roars of the giant demons coincided with the moment when the mysterious girl's snow-white mink burst into the interior of the Misty Sea forest. Roar! 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 As Yi Chun was alert to the abnormal changes in the forest and blasted toward the area where the sounds were weakest, he hadn't gone far when he heard the roars of the giant demons right beside him. The speed of these demons' encirclement was astonishingly fast. Even Yi Chun had already seen the giant demons that were closing in on him. He saw at least a dozen 100-foot-tall giant demons breaking through the towering trees and furiously surrounding him. With a sweep of his divine sense, he felt that there were a total of 18 giant demons. Among them were giant mountain ape monsters the size of small mountains, bizarre 8-legged crawling demons, flying predatory demons, giant green snakes. All 18 demons were of Demon King caliber, with the weakest 8 being mid-ranking Demon Kings equivalent to the mid-stages of the Revolving Pill Realm, while the other 10 were high-ranking Demon Kings equivalent to the late stages of the Revolving Pill Realm. This again caused Yi Chun's complexion to change. Yi Chun couldn't understand why. As he flew through the otherwise normal Misty Sea forest, he was being surrounded by these Demon Kings. However, now that he was surrounded, Yi Chun wasn't too afraid. Although he had only slain a low-ranking Demon King equivalent to the early stages of the Revolving Pill Realm, the Golden Demon Carp guarding the Azure Blue Lake in the Ancient Tomb, he had also battled the 8 Great Demon Towers equivalent to high-ranking Demon Kings. Back then, with the power of the Heavenly Saint Realm, Yi Chun was able to contend against 2 late-stage Revolving Pill Realm Demon Towers joining forces. Now, Yi Chun's strength had increased even more, and he had some Heavenly Saint Law beads with him. If these Demon Kings truly dared to fight him, he had means to deal with them. Even if he ultimately couldn't defeat all the Demon Kings joining forces, Yi Chun was confident he could escape smoothly after exhausting some energy. First, he needed to see why these Demon Kings were surrounding him. With a swoosh, Yi Chun drew his black fire sword and faced the Demon Kings slowly closing in around him. He called out, "Honored Demon Kings, why do you block my path?" Demon Kings, with their exceptional intelligence, were already capable of speaking and communicating with people, which is why Yi Chun asked this question. Among the 18 Demon Kings, the leader was a mountain ape monster king towering over 100 feet tall. Hearing Yi Chun's question, the mountain ape monster king's massive eyes looked towards one side of the forest before returning his gaze to Yi Chun and saying, "Little child, we are under orders to fight you." "Under orders? To fight me? Whose orders were those?" With high-ranking Demon Kings among them, could it be that someone from the Heavenly Saint Realm commanded them? Thinking this, Yi Chun felt a surge of apprehension. If there really were Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses looking to trouble him, he would need to be very careful. Following the gaze of the giant mountain ape monster toward one side of the forest, Yi Chun also looked in that direction but saw nothing. Could it be that a heavenly saint from the Tae sword sect is blocking my way? With that thought, Yi Chun shook his head. Yi Chun had never heard of anyone from the Tae sword sect intercepting travelers in the Misty Sea forest, and besides, beings of the Heavenly Saint Realm wouldn't bother stopping him, right? After all, this place wasn't truly within the boundaries of the Tae sword sect. Unable to understand, Yi Chun didn't dwell on it any longer. Clutching the black fire sword in his hand, he looked toward the Demon Kings and said, "If you've been ordered to fight me, just how should we fight before you'll let me leave?" "How to let you leave? We do not know. We only know that there's a Demon King ordered to battle you." The giant mountain ape monster's thunderous voice fell, and then it looked directly at one of the Demon Kings among the 18, a mid-tier one. "Wu Meng, it's your turn to fight." The mid-tier Demon King that the giant mountain ape monster was looking at was none other than a giant grizzly demon towering over 80 zhang tall. This giant grizzly demon, with muscles as prominent as dragons, clearly possessed immense strength. Its gray fur emitted a soul-shaking murderous aura. This was a mid-tier Demon King whose vigor was exceptionally formidable, almost matching the strength of one in the late stage of the Dan rotation phase. Boom! Upon being called, the giant grizzly demon immediately stepped forward, its huge eyes looking down at Yi Chun. "Lad, though I'm not sure why that great one ordered me to fight you, he commanded me to use my full strength. If I accidentally kill you, you'd better not blame me." Boom! While talking, The massive, over 80 zhang tall giant grizzly demon effortlessly pulled a tree several hundred zhang tall from beside it. With several swipes of its enormous palm, it whittled the tree into a suitably sized large club and held it in its hand. Using a giant tree as a weapon, this giant grizzly demon indeed possessed terrifying strength. Facing the colossal bear over 80 zhang tall, Yi Chun appeared incredibly tiny in comparison, yet he exhibited not an ounce of fear. He's just a mid-tier demon king. He had already slain many foes at the stage of the mid-dan rotation phase. Opponents of this caliber couldn't cause him any trouble. Yi Chun indeed put away the black fire sword, facing the giant grizzly demon with his bare hands, and said, "If we are to fight, then let's begin." He also wanted to see what kind of tricks the person behind these giant monsters was playing. Seeing that Yi Chun had holstered his weapon and chose to confront it barehanded, the giant grizzly demon seemed to be provoked, roaring loudly, "You little brat, daring to fight me empty-handed. You really don't know the vastness of heaven and earth. If I kill you, you'd better not blame me." Roar. In the midst of speaking, the giant grizzly demon lifted the huge tree club and brought it crashing down towards Yi Chun. Right when the club neared Yi Chun, he instantly vanished from the spot. With a loud boom, the club struck the ground. The entire ground cracked open with a terrifyingly large fissure as a result of the attack, and many large trees within the vicinity were snapped by the sheer force and fell thunderously. The giant grizzly demon swung its arm, flinging countless large trees far away, and then its gaze fixated on a spot in the void where Yi Chun, who had vanished moments before, now appeared. Fast speed. The giant grizzly demon's eyes gleamed as it observed Yi Chun. From Yi Chun's instant evasion, it could tell that this human youngster was no ordinary individual. "Let's see how many times you can dodge." Within the glint of its eye, the giant grizzly demon swung the huge tree club in its hand and launched itself towards Yi Chun once more, faster than before, even leaving an afterimage in the void. Such a massive giant grizzly demon was equally swift. Seeing the giant grizzly demon charging at him again, Yi Chun narrowed his eyes. "Strong, are you? Let's see whose strength is greater." This time Yi Chun did not dodge. His body erupted with billowing black true chi, which rose even higher than the giant grizzly demon's body. Then, enveloped in the rolling black aura, Yi Chun's body shone with a dazzling golden light, clearly a manifestation of the 9 transformation golden body talisman pattern. With the support of true chi and the talisman pattern, Yi Chun's aura grew even more formidable than the giant grizzly demon's. As the giant grizzly demon's tree club was about to land just above Yi Chun's head, Yi Chun surged upwards. With the combined power of true chi and the golden talisman pattern, he caught the giant club with his palm, which was now shining brightly. Then, with a surge of immense strength from his hand, Yi Chun swirled upward into the sky, and by wielding the giant tree club, he flung the grizzly demon king, holding the club, into the air right from the ground. A mere human youth managed to toss into the air a giant grizzly demon hundreds of times larger than him in stature. The scene was beyond astonishing. The giant mountain ape monster and the other 17 demon kings watching from the side were completely stunned. Boom! When the hurled giant grizzly demon crashed back to the earth, creating a massive crater in the ground, the other demon kings were utterly lost for words. After that, the demon kings saw that this human youngster had flung the tree club he had caught hundreds of zhang away. Then, flying into the huge crater, he grabbed the giant grizzly demon once again with a single palm. Before the grizzly demon king could react, he flung it from the crater towards the side of the mountain ape monster king. Boom! In the end, the giant grizzly demon was even knocked unconscious at the mountain ape monster king's feet. Then, Yi Chun's indifferent voice fell into the ears of all the demon kings. "That wasn't good enough. If you want to fight me, send out someone tougher." Chapter 283, Big Brawl. "It's not enough to fight me. Send someone more powerful." Yi Chun's indifferent words, yet like thunder, exploded in the minds of all the demon kings. Hearing Yi Chun's words and seeing the fainted giant grizzly demon, the other 7 mid-tier demon kings' complexions changed, and they shed all at once, retreating a big step backward. Shock. The demon kings were truly shocked. The giant grizzly demon, known for its immense strength, was not a match for this human child at all, and was defeated with just one move, rendered completely unconscious. Moreover, it was knocked flying into the air and slumped on the ground, passed out. This indicated that the strength of this human child was even greater and more terrifying than that of the giant grizzly demon. Demon beasts are commonly known to be physically stronger than humans. But now, this human child seems more like a demon beast, like a human-shaped ferocious beast. When they looked again at Yi-chun, these demon kings understood that the strength of this human child in front of them was definitely far beyond the mid-stage of the rotating pill realm. This made the other 7 mid-tier demon kings dare not make any more rash moves. The 7 mid-tier demon kings were terrified, and the other 10 high-tier demon kings also had huge waves churning in their hearts. They even felt that this human child before them could fight them directly. In a one-on-one battle, they could very likely lose to this child. Amidst their shock, 100 miles away from where Yi-chan and the demon kings were fighting, Mu Qingqing, a girl in white, held a snow-white ferret in her arms and also showed a surprised expression. When Yi-chan previously knocked the giant grizzly demon unconscious, Mu Qingqing's slender, smooth legs even tensed sharply, sitting up straight on the tree. On the way here, seeing how he suppressed the mid-stage rotating pill martial artists, I knew his power was great. But I never imagined it would be to this extent. With pure strength, he has actually defeated the giant grizzly demon, who was nearly at the late stage of rotating pill. And obviously, he has not yet fully exerted all his strength. Surprised, Mu Qingqing looked at Yi-chan and turned her spirited eyes. Since that's the case, let's continue watching, Mu Qingqing whispered to the little ferret in her arms, and at that moment, the snow-white little ferret nodded its little head and gently called out a few times in the direction of Yi-chan and the 18 demon kings. Despite the 100 miles distance, Yi-chan and the demon kings all heard this call at the same time. The moment they heard this call, the 7 mid-tier demon kings' faces changed simultaneously, and then all 7 looked towards Yi-chan. Hearing the strange call and seeing the movements of the 7 mid-tier demon kings, Yi-chan's eyes flashed sharply. Could it be that this sound is commanding the actions of the demon kings? As the thought flashed through Yi-chan's mind, instantly, his gaze became sharply intense as he looked towards the direction of the call, and his divine sense also frantically probed in that direction. However, he found nothing. Not in this area. Could it be even further than 40 miles? Instantly, Yi-chun prepared to teleport to a space 40 miles away and continued to investigate towards the source of the sound. Just as Yi-chun was about to move, bang bang bang, waves of law fluctuations transmitted through the space where he was, and in an instant, Yi-chun felt his teleportation divine sense being constrained. If he wanted to teleport again, he would have to unleash a battle and destroy all these law fluctuations. And Yi-chun realized that these law fluctuations were emitted by those 10 high-tier demon kings simultaneously. When the 10 high-tier demon kings joined forces, even Yi-chun could not break the binding fluctuations of the law domain instantly. At that moment, the leading giant mountain ape monster among the demon kings looked at Yi-chun. Human child, you are very powerful, but don't think about leaving first. By the command of the Great One, next you have a new battle to face. A new battle? Yi-chun looked in the direction of the sound and put away the thought of teleporting, asking indifferently, "How does your Great One command you to fight me now?" Yi-chun decided in his heart that he would take the opportunity during the battle to find a way to investigate the mysterious call driving the demon kings, to see who this Great One truly was. With 10 high-tier demon kings watching, it was not a good time to make a move, but once the battle erupted, he might be able to find the gap to teleport in all directions and thoroughly investigate. Sensing that Yi-chan had put away his restless divine sense, the giant mountain ape monster laughed and waved its hand, disengaging their divine constraint on Yi-chan, and then the giant mountain ape monster pointed at the 7 mid-tier demon kings towards Yi-chan. The second battle the Great One has ordered you to fight is with these 7, in a grand melee. Defeating a giant grizzly demon was not enough, and now he had to fight 7 mid-tier demon kings? What sort of game was this hidden Great One playing? If they wanted to deal with him, they could have just let the high-tier demon kings take action. The way it looks, they do not seem to be aiming to deal with him at all. Yi-Chun also couldn't figure it out. Unable to understand, Yi-Chun didn't ponder further. He squinted his eyes and turned his attention to the 7 middle-ranked demon kings, ready to erupt into a grand melee with him. At that moment, after exchanging glances with each other, the 7 middle-ranked demon kings all stood out, encircling Yi-Chun in a siege formation. The other 10 high-ranked demon kings also acted in unison, swiftly clearing all the trees in the thousands of zhang of space around the 7 middle-ranked demon kings and Yi-Chun, leaving a vast space for the imminent great battle. Witnessing the large swathes of giant trees being swept away with mere hand waves or breaths, Yi-Chun gained a new appreciation for the strength of the 10 high-ranked great demons. Once the 10 high-ranked great demons cleared the battlefield, they stood outside the fray. The thunderous voice of the giant mountain ape monster reached Yi-Chun and the 7 middle-ranked demon kings. Begin the grand melee now. Unleash your attacks freely. Should you face a life-threatening danger, we will intervene to save you. Once a result is produced, we will follow the adults' arrangements. Boom! 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 Accompanied by the booming voice of the giant mountain ape monster, the 7 middle-ranked demon kings all burst forth, charging violently towards Yi-Chun. And Yi-Chun, with a sudden surge of his primordial true qi, unleashed torrents of black true qi that soared hundreds of zhang high, before he likewise shot forward to meet the 7 middle-ranked demon kings head-on. Meanwhile, hundreds of li away, the white-clad maiden Mu Qingqing also patted her enticing chest. The piercing gaze that Yi-Chun had directed towards her location had startled the young girl. What quick reflexes! He discovered our position so quickly. At this moment, without a clear grasp of his true strength, it's not yet time to reveal ourselves. Let's continue to watch. As the girl mumbled to herself, she carried the small mink and instantly leapt towards another direction before finding an appropriate spot to observe Yi-Chun amidst the battle. By the time Mu Qingqing turned her attention back to Yi-Chun, he and the 7 middle-ranked demon kings had already exchanged a dozen moves. At this moment, amidst the encirclement of the 7 middle-ranked demon kings, Yi-Chun's billowing black true qi had transformed into golden color, becoming torrents of golden true qi. At the same time, a mystical white tiger divine beast law phantom emerged around Yi-Chun. Facing the siege of the 7 middle-ranked demon kings, Yi-Chun directly employed his white tiger attack great divine ability. The white tiger divine beast law phantom, stretching over 100 zhang long, with its fur radiating a golden white light, and its whiskers extraordinarily long, flaring towards the sky as its grand wings unfolded with a roar, hovered in the midst of the swirling golden true qi outside of Yi-Chun, lending him an aura of supreme dominance over the world. Even the 7 middle-ranked demon kings and the distant 10 high-ranked demon kings, observing the battle, were shocked by the divine beast phantom around Yi-Chun to the point of trembling throughout their bodies. Charge! Ignore the law phantom. Defeat him! Boom! 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 Suppressing the fear in their hearts, the 7 middle-ranked demon kings shot forward once again to attack Yi-Chun. Among these 7 middle-ranked demon kings was an 8-legged crawling giant demon, a giant feathered vulture, and a massive green snake over 130 zhang long. From the sky to the ground, they formed a complete encirclement, their overwhelming killing power all converging on Yi-Chun. And as they attacked, 7 law domains also reached optimal coordination, layering together to constrict Yi-Chun. This was the first time Yi-Chun faced off against 7 rotating pill mid-stage opponents. The first time facing the confinement and lethal attacks of 7 law domains. Yet, the encircled Yi-Chun displayed not a hint of cowardice, not even a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. These opponents were exactly what he needed to test his true combat strength. Facing the impending breakthrough to late-stage rotating pill powerful middle-ranked war spirits from the Upper Realms Divine Phoenix clan, Yi-Chun had not been afraid. Would he then fear these lower realm demon creatures? With a swoosh, Yi-Chun pulled out his black fire sword. As his surging true qi enveloped the sword, a full 60 artifact restrictions lit up brilliantly on the blade. Then, with the black fire sword in hand, Yi Chun infused even more of the white tiger divine power into the sword, turning the entire blade into a divine weapon shimmering with an extraordinary black gold light. Next, the entire black fire sword slashed wildly towards the confining barrier of the 7 great law domains. Boom! 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 It was like the heavens and earth were exploding. As the black fire sword touched the power of the law domains, the entire void erupted in frenzy. A strange ripple emanated from the point of clash, which, after sweeping past the battlefield, continued for thousands of zhong, shattering countless large trees before finally calming down. The 10 high-ranked demon kings watching by the side even had to radiate true chi shields around themselves to protect their bodies. Looking back towards the battlefield, that earth-shattering slash had actually shattered all 7 stacked law domains. Like an awe-inspiring sword god, Yi Chun blasted out of the law domain's confinement and raised his sword, charging towards the green snake demon king among the 7 middle-ranked demon kings who were closing in for the kill. Chapter 284: The Girl and the Sable. This one kill struck such terror into the green snake demon king that its liver and gallbladder split. The green snake demon king only felt as if a lightning-like beam of light pierced towards it, and in that instant, it didn't even know how to defend against this deadly strike. If truly hit by this sword, it was very likely that it would die on the spot. Oh! Just in this moment of extreme crisis, the attacks from the other 6 mid-rank demon kings poured towards Yi Chun simultaneously. There were the giant eagle monster's talons sharp as cold knives, the vast mists sprayed by the octoped monster, and the thunderous roars of the golden lion great demon. If Yi Chun only focused on killing the green snake great demon without fending off the attacks of the other 6 demon kings, he would truly fall into the midst of a great siege. How will this lad break out of the encirclement in this chaotic battle alone? The alliance of 7 demon kings is very different from a one-on-one fight. Outside the battlefield, the gazes of 10 high-rank demon kings were tightly fixed on the confrontation. He must have other techniques still up his sleeve. Bring out your other techniques. Let me see them. 100 miles away, the white-clothed young lady Mu Qingxing and Xiao Diao were also intently watching Yi Chun. Amidst everyone's gaze, the sword that Yi Chun used to strike at the green snake demon king didn't stop at all. And at the same time, a sudden burst of endless sword lights erupted from his exterior. Swish! 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 In an instant, these endless sword lights formed densely packed tens of thousands of true chi swords outside of Yi Chun's body. The high-level sword formation divine ability, 10,000 swords divine ability. This was one of the most powerful sword formation divine abilities that Yi Chun had mastered. When confronted with the siege of the 6 mid-rank demon kings, Yi Chun finally unleashed it. In a flash, those tens of thousands of true chi swords formed the terrifying 10,000 swords bombarding kill, attack, blasting towards the 6 attacking demon kings in an instant. The whole world was already completely filled with the true might of 10,000 swords bombarding kill, and the moves of the 6 demon kings were all engulfed by the lethal force of this attack. Furthermore, 10,000 swords bombarding kill forced all 6 demon kings to explosively retreat backward. The 6 demon kings retreated explosively, and the green snake demon king, which was directly attacked by Yi Chun, was now screaming madly in terror, because, without the help of the other 6 demon kings and facing Yi Chun's direct attack, it shockingly found that Yi Chun's lightning-fast sword was already before its face, and the grim sword glow was about to pierce through its flesh and kill it on the spot. Young lad, spare my life. The green snake demon king even began to plead with Yi Chun for mercy. To know, it was originally calmly cultivating in the Misty Sea Forest and was driven here to confront Yi Chun by a big shot. If it really were to die here, it would be too wronged. The green snake demon king was begging for mercy, while the 10 high-rank demon kings who were observing from the side, led by the giant mountain ape monster, were frantically rushing to save the green snake demon king. Young lad, we have no intention to make things difficult for you. Don't hurt it. But Yi Chun's attack was extremely fast. Even the giant mountain ape monster wasn't certain it could save the green snake demon king from death. Boom! Just as Yi Chun's black fire sword was about to strike the green snake demon king's neck, just as the green snake demon king's pleas for mercy abruptly ceased. And just at the moment the giant mountain ape monster was frantically rushing in, Yi-chan, wielding the black fire sword, however, flicked the sword tip aside, directly missing his killing strike against the green snake demon king. Swoosh! Yi-chan, like a bolt of lightning, shot past the green snake demon king, and simultaneously, his voice reached the green snake demon king's ears. I won't kill you, but had this been a true battle, you'd be dead already. Step out of the fight. As his voice thundered, Yi-chan, like a shocking sword god, holding the black fire sword, once more leapt into the midair. Facing the encirclement of 7 demon kings, Yi-chan actually managed to oppose 7 by himself and even spared the life of one of the great demons. Otherwise, he would have already slain a demon king. This turn of events made the other 6 demon kings, still dodging the terrifying 10,000 swords divine ability, change their expressions dramatically. This turn of events also made the green snake demon king, whose life Yi-chan had spared, tremble all over and withdraw from the battlefield. Even among the 10 high-ranked demon kings, the other 9, including the giant mountain ape monster who came to rescue the green snake demon king, showed a moment of stupefaction. And miles away, Mu Qingqing's eyes shone brightly. Aside from that peculiar divine beast physique, he has cultivated in sword formation, and it's a high-level sword formation at that. Heavens, even among the countless sword disciples of the 5 third-rank sword sects in the 3 great dynasties, there are few who could have cultivated a high-level sword formation at his age. No wonder he has been making his way to Taie sword sect. His swordsmanship is also so formidable. Although this high-level sword formation seems not yet perfectly mastered, it's already exceptionally extraordinary. His strength far surpasses his age. His reflexes are extraordinary. Even the methods he uses to cultivate are far beyond his peers. Is he really from the Southern Territory? He's almost comparable to the disciples of the Holy Temples. No, I must get him to join our heavenly sacred palace. Earlier I thought he met the requirements for the second Holy Temple, but now it seems very likely he could directly join the most powerful First Holy Temple. Mu Qingqing's heart fluctuated intensely. Just as all the demon kings and, watching from afar, Mu Qingqing were stunned by Yi-chen's imposing figure standing against 7. Yi-chen's eyes in the void suddenly shifted toward the direction where the ferret sound had come from earlier. He had long planned to find the real person behind the scenes who was driving these demon kings to battle him, and now, while the demon kings were astonished, was the best moment. Whoosh! In 1/10 of an instant, the rolling gold chi outside Yi-chen's body turned fiery red, and at the same time, the white tiger physique illusion outside of him suddenly and unexpectedly transformed into the equally mystical vermilion bird physique illusion. In order to find the person behind the scenes, Yi-chen directly stimulated his fire chi and the vermilion bird speed great divine ability. As his chi transformed, Yi-chen burst forth in speed, shooting toward the place where the ferret sound had been like an unparalleled mystic vermilion bird. By the time the demon kings reacted, Yi-chan had already shot tens of miles away, and at the same time, his divine consciousness rapidly spread and swept over a 40-mile radius. What is he doing? Chase! Seeing Yi-chan suddenly fly toward the place from where the ferret sound had originated, the 10 high-ranking demon kings were profoundly shocked. They were ordered to spar with this youth and had not yet received the command from that great one to stop. Naturally, they wouldn't allow Yi-chan to make a move. Boom! 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 Instantly, the 10 high-ranking demon kings burst forth, chasing after Yi-chan. Boosted by the speed of the vermilion bird physique illusion, Yi-chen's speed had surpassed that of a mid-spinning dance stage. Although it was still slightly inferior to high-ranking great demons, he was already in motion, so it would take some time for those 10 high-ranking demon kings to catch up to him. With this time, he could search a vast area. Not here, nor here. Could it be that the hidden Great One realized I was onto him and dodged away? As he searched, Yi-chen didn't find anyone where the ferret sound came from. With a surge of fire chi erupting from his body, and amidst the clear calls of the vermilion bird physique illusion, he shot toward another location. Instantly, a striking scene unfolded in the misty sea forest. A youth, surrounded by a vermilion bird divine shadow over 100 zhang in length, with a pair of fiery red gigantic wings and an endlessly burning, mystical fire feather illusion flowing around him, flew at extreme speed as if he were a matchless flame spirit. Behind the youth, 10 high-ranking demon kings with terrifying auras followed in a mix of anger and amazement, hastily pursuing. This scene left the 7 middle-ranking demon kings who stayed behind slack-jawed in astonishment, and it caused the other monsters and great demons in the Misty Sea Forest to flee in terror. At this moment, Mu Qingqing and Xiaodiao, whom Yi Chun was truly searching for, were also taken aback as they watched Yi Chun fly rapidly through the Misty Sea Forest. He's still thinking of finding us, even in the midst of a great battle. He did not hesitate. Could it be that before battling the 7 middle-ranking demon kings, he had already planned this? Mu Qingqing's beautiful eyes followed the moving Yi Chun. Another mystical physique. This seems to be the vermilion bird's physique. His chi has actually changed with the transformation of the physique. This physique has boosted his speed to such an extent, and he never used this method even when he fled for more than 10 days before. This youth definitely has great fortune. At his age, to have cultivated to this level of combat power is already a miracle, and yet he has so many mystical abilities. This time, testing his abilities in the Misty Sea Forest is indeed a delightful surprise. Mu Qingqing's gaze towards Yi Chun became brighter and brighter. I never thought that this time, while using the identity of an envoy coming out from Heavenly Sacred Palace, I would actually find an unparalleled genius for the Heavenly Sacred Palace, a real unparalleled genius. If my grandfather were here, he would definitely take him into the Heavenly Sacred Palace. It's time to meet him. With that thought, Mu Qingqing stood up with a whoosh, cradling Xiaodiao in her arms. By this time, Yi Chun had already searched half of the 100-mile radius, and the 10 high-ranking demon kings were getting closer and closer behind him. The leading high-ranking demon king, the giant mountain ape monster, could no longer bear it and roared at Yi Chun, who was still dozens of miles ahead. "Boy, if you don't stop, don't blame me for attacking." Yi Chun continued to fly rapidly through the Misty Sea Forest, knowing that battling these demon kings would be pointless if he did not find the hidden character behind them. Hearing the giant mountain ape monster's words, Yi Chun's voice remained perfectly calm as he called back, "Feel free to attack. I've wanted to cross hands with a high-ranking demon king myself." At the same time, Yi Chun looked over the vast Misty Sea Forest and his resonant voice spread in all directions. "The Great One, who can drive so many demon kings, come out. No need to let these demons battle me anymore. What is your purpose in obstructing me here? Wouldn't it be good for Yi Chun to know?"
Yi Chun.
Mu Qingqing, who had just stood up, muttered Yi Chun's name. Then, cradling Xiaodiao, she leaped down from the big tree, and her giggling voice reached Yi Chun. "Great One, I am no Great One." Chapter 285. The Invitation from the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Amidst speaking, Mu Qingqing held the snow-white marten and flew toward Yi Chun. A girl's voice. Listening to the charming voice coming over, Yi Chun was startled. He had considered the possibility that Heavenly Saint might be driving these high and mid-rank demon kings from behind, but he never expected to hear such a young voice. When Mu Qingqing, holding the snow-white marten, came into Yi Chun's view, he was even more bemused. The young girl in front of him seemed even younger than him, not at all like a heavenly saint, but clearly exuding the early-stage aura of the spirit sea realm. Could it be that this young girl was driving the 18 demon kings to encircle him? Impossible, right? Yi Chun's gaze then shifted to the snow-white marten cradled in the girl's arms, and with this look, a bright light flashed in Yi Chun's eyes. The snow-white marten was now sleepily squinting its eyes as if dozing off, yet Yi Chun could feel a force of heavenly saint coming from this little creature. He then remembered the peculiar marten call that had set all the demon kings in motion before. Yi Chun's heart shook. Could it be that this marten had reached the heavenly saint realm, and the girl was driving the 18 demon kings through this marten? But the heavenly saint realm, that's an incredibly powerful level, so how could it be held by a girl in the early stages of the spirit sea realm? Yi Chun was somewhat confused. Hee, your name is Yi Chun, right? I'm Mu Qingqing. You can call me Qingqing. Yi Chen, you're really amazing, said Mu Qingqing as she flew about and, in just a moment, landed not far in front of Yi Chun. Then she took a few steps toward him. The agility of Mu Qingqing's movement also made Yi Chun take notice. He saw that this girl, who was merely in the early stage of the spirit sea realm, flew at a speed that was no slower than his own.
Mu Qingqing.
Is it you who commanded the 18 demon kings to battle me? Yi Chun asked the young girl. What do you want by blocking my way? Yi Chun noticed that when the girl with the snow-white marten descended, those 10 high-rank demon kings that had been pursuing him had suddenly stopped their chase and stayed quietly behind. Yes, it was me. I had the marten summon some demon kings to fight you. Is there something you need? Of course. There is something, Yi Chun. It's a great opportunity for you. Looking toward Yi Chun with a pair of lively eyes, Mu Qingqing giggled and continued, Yi Chun, you've passed my test. I would like to invite you to join our heavenly sacred palace. A test? Yi Chun was taken aback. Could the battle with the 18 demon kings have been a test? But what is the heavenly sacred palace? Yi Chun had learned of many sects within the 3 great kingdoms of the central domain from the barbaric wilderness mountain and sea map, but he had never heard of the heavenly sacred palace. While Yi Chun was still pondering, the 10 high-rank demon kings behind him were all shocked upon hearing the 3 words, Heavenly Sacred Palace. My lord, so you are from the Heavenly Sacred Palace. The giant mountain ape monster looked at Mu Qingqing, its eyes darting cautiously to the snow-white marten in Mu Qingqing's arms, trembling with excitement as it spoke. It wasn't just the giant mountain ape monster. The other high-rank demon kings were also extremely excited. Heavenly Sacred Palace, inviting this young one to join. Could it be, my lord, that you are an envoy of the Heavenly Sacred Palace? While speaking, the demon king's eyes turned toward Yi Chun, filled with great envy. This young one has hit the jackpot, being invited by the Heavenly Sacred Palace. However, with his strength, it's indeed possible that the Heavenly Sacred Palace would take notice. The words of the 10 high-rank demon kings made Yi Chun even more confused. What exactly is this Heavenly Sacred Palace that has these high-rank great demons so astonished? Seeing the utterly surprised expressions of the 10 high-rank great demons, Mu Qingqing smiled and nodded, but when she looked at Yi Chun again, she saw that he was still somewhat bewildered. Mu Qingqing pouted her rosy lips. Yi Chun, you don't know about the Heavenly Sacred Palace? Yi Chun shook his head. I've just come to the central domain from the Southern Territory. I really don't know. Before Mu Qingqing could explain the Heavenly Sacred Palace to Yi Chun, the giant mountain ape monster already spoke out. Young one, you don't know the Heavenly Sacred Palace. It's the #1 sect among the 3 great dynasties of the central domain, a legendary second-rank sect. The best place for cultivation. The #1 sect of the 3 great kingdoms of the central domain. The words of the giant mountain ape monster took Yi Chun by surprise. Yi Chun had seen in the barbaric wilderness mountain and sea map that within the Great Xia dynasty, one of the 3 great kingdoms, there was a supremely powerful sect, a second-rank sect that was hidden from the world and hardly ever appeared, let alone partake in the countless struggles of the sects within the 3 great kingdoms. Unexpectedly, this second-rank sect turned out to be the Heavenly Sacred Palace the girl had referred to. Now, the #1 sect of the central domain, a legendary second-rank sect, was inviting him to join. This completely took Yi Chun by surprise. One must know that a second-tier sect is guarded by a late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse. A late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse is truly one of the most formidable individuals on the barbaric wilderness continent. Such beings can only be surpassed by first-tier sects in the upper realm's minor spirit realm, where the void sky true gods reside. In the barbaric wilderness continent, that is indeed the most powerful force. No matter what, Yi Chun could not have imagined that on his way to join the third-tier Tai sword sect, he would be invited to join a second-tier sect. This was really too surprising. Seeing Yi Chun's shocked and surprised expression, Mu Qingqing smiled and said, Yi Chun, there's no need to be surprised. Heavenly Sacred Palace is a hidden sect that rarely recruits disciples. Only when the envoys travel the world and see a warrior that they like will they invite them to join. On this trip out of Heavenly Sacred Palace, I am in the role of an envoy, looking to select a martial artist to join the sect. I noticed your talents back at the 73rd crossing and have followed you all the way here to the Tai Sword sect before I really made up my mind to invite you. You noticed me since the 73rd crossing? Yichen was startled. Throughout his journey, he had always felt as if he was being followed. A few times, he even intentionally stopped and surveyed his surroundings, but discovered nothing unusual. Yichen had thought it was just his imagination, but it turned out someone had indeed been following him. This girl? My divine sense covers a vast area, and my flying speed is quite fast for someone in the spirit sea realm. How did you keep up with me? Yichen asked the girl. With a cunning sparkle in her eyes, Mu Qingqing gently smiled. I admit you are very powerful, but I am also a disciple of Heavenly Sacred Palace, and naturally, I have my own methods. Yichen, if you join Heavenly Sacred Palace, you will understand these methods in the future. Yichen pondered for a moment. He came to the central region this time at the introduction of Fairy Jialuo to cultivate in the Tai Sword sect, a great third-tier sect, and of course he was willing to cultivate there. And now, Heavenly Sacred Palace, the strongest second-tier sect of not only the central region but perhaps the entire barbaric wilderness continent, had also invited him to join. A second-tier sect, that's where late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses resided. It was impossible for Yichen not to be tempted. However, Yichen still had some concerns. On one hand, he knew very little about Heavenly Sacred Palace. On the other, Zhang Yao had not yet awakened from her bloodline awakening. Originally, Fairy Jialuo had arranged for him and Zhang Yao to join the Tai Sword sect together. If he went to the Heavenly Sacred Palace, what would happen to Zhang Yao? Yichen did not know if Zhang Yao could also go to the Heavenly Sacred Palace to cultivate. Seeing Yichen still hesitant, the 10 high-level demon kings beside him appeared completely irritated as they said, "Little boy, to have the chance to join the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Yet you hesitate. You must know, the Tai Sword sect that we, the Misty Sea Forest, rely on has Elder Shao Supreme Elder, who is indeed from Heavenly Sacred Palace. Joining Heavenly Sacred Palace is the dream of every disciple from the Central Domain's 3 great dynasties. It's a pity the envoys recruit so seldom. You have this opportunity and still hesitate. It's definitely not to be missed. If you don't go, I would want to go myself." In the end, several of the high-level demon kings couldn't help but slap their foreheads, lamenting that they were not the ones invited. The words of the 10 demon kings made Yichen involuntarily smile. The demon kings of the Misty Sea Forest certainly were interesting. But what the 10 demon kings mentioned, that the most powerful supreme elder of the Tai Sword sect was from Heavenly Sacred Palace, caught Yichen's attention. Yichen asked Mu Qingqing, the most powerful supreme elder of the Tai Sword sect, that should be a mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse, right? They also joined the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Yichen, you still know too little about Heavenly Sacred Palace. Mu Qingqing smiled at Yichen. Let me tell you more about the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Heavenly Sacred Palace is named such because, at the very beginning of its establishment, Heavenly Sacred Palace only recruited heavenly saints into the sect. Only recruited heavenly saints into the sect. Mu Qingqing's words caused a shock in Yichen's heart. Only recruiting heavenly saints into the sect. The sect members must all be heavenly saints. It goes without saying how powerful such a sect is. Yichen couldn't help but want to hear more about the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Heavenly Sacred Palace was established by the 3 palace masters, all of whom are late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm beings. The 3 palace masters founded the Heavenly Sacred Palace not for internal affairs, but actually for external ones. External affairs? Externally to where? While Yichen was still guessing, Mu Qingqing directly revealed, in our upper realm, where the minor spirit realm exists, there are many connections with our Heavenly Sacred Palace, but we'll talk about that later. What I mean by external is in reference to the other 32 continents that, like our barbaric wilderness continent, belong to the minor spirit realm's lower realm. You must know, the lower realm of the minor spirit realm including the barbaric wilderness continent and the other 32 continents, have countless connections, disputes, and even competitions. Heavenly Sacred Palace was founded to select the most outstanding disciples in preparation to face the other 32 continents. It can be said, while other sects strive against countless sects within the barbaric wilderness continent, Heavenly Sacred Palace represents our barbaric wilderness continent in its struggles against the other 32 continents. The disciples of Heavenly Sacred Palace face the truly powerful disciples from the other 32 continents. Chapter 286. The First Temple. Heavenly Sacred Palace represents the barbaric wilderness continent in its struggle against 32 other continents. The disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace face the truly powerful disciples from those other 32 continents. Mu Qingqing's words made Yi Chun take a deep breath. Externally. So this was the external aspect of Heavenly Sacred Palace. Turns out that while Heavenly Sacred Palace does not partake in the sectarian strife within the barbaric wilderness continent and remains the strongest secluded sect, it is the vanguard in the struggle against the 32 other continents. This drew Yi Chun deeply towards the Heavenly Sacred Palace. After all, to fight against the other 32 continents meant that he could witness the conditions of those continents. One barbaric wilderness continent was already boundless. Yi Chun had no idea what the other 32 continents would look like, or what the geniuses from those continents would be like. Of course, Yi Chun wished to experience what set the total 33 continents of the minor spirit realm apart. Mu Qingqing's following words prompted even more interest in Yi Chun. Mu Qingqing continued, Heavenly Sacred Palace can interact with the other 32 continents because it alone controls the ancient intercontinental transportation formations leading to them. In the entire barbaric wilderness continent, only Heavenly Sacred Palace has the means to enter the other 32 continents. Furthermore, only the 3 great palace masters of the Heavenly Sacred Palace have some inexplicable connection with the overseers of the 32 other continents. To join Heavenly Sacred Palace is to truly possess the opportunity to experience the other 32 continents, traversing continents, witnessing the wonders of the other 32 continents, and clashing with the geniuses from those continents. Indeed, this is the special chance that Heavenly Sacred Palace's disciples possess. If the fact that Heavenly Sacred Palace was the first sect of the Central Region, the sacred land of the human race, hadn't strongly attracted Yi Chun before, the opportunity to experience the other 32 continents certainly had a real impact on him now. Seeing Yi Chun's interest, Mu Qingqing smiled and continued, Yi Chun, because of Heavenly Sacred Palace's special nature, countless martial artists across the barbaric wilderness continent wish to join Heavenly Sacred Palace. Even many heavenly saints aspire to join it. However, the 3 palace masters are extremely stringent in choosing their disciples, and the vast majority of heavenly saints are not selected to join Heavenly Sacred Palace. Only the truly strong and those with great natural talent on the path of cultivation have the chance to join Heavenly Sacred Palace. Even though Heavenly Sacred Palace later started recruiting disciples not only from the Heavenly Saint realm, but also from the True Qi realm, Spirit Sea realm, and Rotating Pill realm, to confront the geniuses of the other realms from the 32 continents, these disciples are all highly talented individuals. Yi Chun, you at the mid-phase of the Spirit Sea realm can suppress a mid-phase practitioner of the Rotating Pill realm, overcoming an entire realm to confront your enemy. Coupled with your age of only 15 years old and possessing numerous miraculous methods, that's why I invited you to join Heavenly Sacred Palace. If it were someone else, they wouldn't even catch my attention. By the end, Mu Qingqing was smiling. Yi Chun also nodded with a smile, now having a better understanding of Heavenly Sacred Palace. However, Yi Chun still had a few doubts. By the way, Mu Qingqing, you mentioned that Heavenly Sacred Palace recruits disciples externally, not internally. Are there any restrictions if a disciple wishes to be involved in power struggles within the barbaric wilderness continent? Yi Chun's journey to the Central Region was because the impending war between the 13 countries of the Southern Territory and the 10 great demonic sects of the Western Wilderness was brewing, and Fairy Jialuo had sent him to the Taiye Sword sect to hasten his cultivation. If he truly joined Heavenly Sacred Palace, and because of the palace's policy of non-involvement in internal conflicts, Yichun would be unwilling to participate in battle during the war between the Southern Territory and Western Wilderness. After all, in the Southern Territory, there were his parents, his nation, and his relatives. If war broke out between the Southern Territory and Western Wilderness, no matter what, Yichun was determined to join the fight and genuinely contribute to the Southern Territory. Now, Yichun already possessed the strength to battle against late-phase practitioners of the rotating pill realm. If the war would break out a bit later, Yichun was very confident that he could further enhance his power. By then, he might even have a shot against early-phase heavenly saints. At that time, he might be able to make a significant contribution to the Southern Territory. He would certainly not forsake the Southern Territory for his own cultivation. Hearing Yichun's question, Mu Qingqing's beautiful eyes glanced across his face. The clever and cunning girl immediately thought of the reason behind Yichun's inquiry. Yichun, I've long heard that your Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness are at odds, and during my return from the Southern Territory, I also felt a suffocating tension hinting at an imminent war between you and the Western Wilderness. Are you worried that, if you join the Heavenly Sacred Palace, you wouldn't be able to participate in case a war breaks out between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness? Seeing Yichun nod, Mu Qingqing smiled and said, You don't have to worry about that. Although my Heavenly Sacred Palace is a hidden sect, we only refrain from competing with other sects on the barbaric wilderness continent as a whole. The personal actions of our disciples are not constrained by the sect. In fact, our Heavenly Sacred Palace has very loose restrictions on disciples. It's only when facing the other 32 continents that we have some requirements for our disciples. Yichun, as far as I know, many talented disciples from the top 10 demonic sects of the Western Wilderness have also joined the Heavenly Sacred Palace, even outnumbering the disciples from the 13 countries of the Southern Territory that have joined. When the time comes, I'm afraid they will also fight for the Western Wilderness. Mu Qingqing's words sent a chill through Yichun's heart. So many disciples from the top 10 demonic sects of the Western Wilderness were cultivating in the Heavenly Sacred Palace. If the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness truly went to war, this could be an important force that couldn't be ignored. What's the strength of those disciples from the Western Wilderness who have joined the Heavenly Sacred Palace? Are there any heavenly saints among them? Yichun asked Mu Qingqing. Have any heavenly saints joined? If there were heavenly saints among them, that could indeed be a huge problem. Heavenly saints? No, there are none. Mu Qingqing shook her head. Both the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness have very few heavenly saints to begin with. Moreover, due to the conflicts between these two powers, the 3 palace masters of the sect never considered recruiting heavenly saints from these areas into the Heavenly Sacred Palace. However, in the First Holy Temple, there's an absolute genius from the Western Wilderness. When the time comes, he's very likely to become the new heavenly saint of the Western Wilderness. His strength is now said to be strong enough to single-handedly defeat late-stage rotating pill realm masters. Yichun, if you're worried about the war between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness, you must be wary of him. The First Holy Temple? Yichun was somewhat perplexed. The Heavenly Sacred Palace is divided into 6 parts: Heavenly Saint Mountain and the 5 Holy Temples. Heavenly Saint Mountain is where the Heavenly Saint Realm Masters cultivate, while the 5 Holy Temples are places for disciples of the True Qi Realm, Spirit Sea Realm, and Rotating Pill Realm to cultivate. Among them, the 5th Holy Temple is for True Qi Realm disciples, the 4th Holy Temple for Spirit Sea Realm disciples, and the 3rd Holy Temple for Rotating Pill Realm disciples. The 2nd Holy Temple and the 1st Holy Temple, however, are special. These 2 great temples select the most outstanding talents from the True Qi, Spirit Sea, and Rotating Pill Realms to exclusively cultivate them. The 1st Holy Temple, in particular, is the gathering place for the most exceptional talents of the entire Heavenly Sacred Palace, aside from Heavenly Saint Mountain, where the Heavenly Saints reside. Nearly 90% of the geniuses who enter the 1st Holy Temple eventually become Heavenly Saints. Mu Qingqing went on to explain about the 1st Holy Temple to Yichun. The 1st Holy Temple is where the crème de la crème of the Heavenly Sacred Palace gathered. and 90% of its disciples would eventually step into the heavenly saint realm. This revelation made Yi Chen's heart race. If that was true, then the genius disciple from the western wilderness who cultivated in the first holy temple, the one who was said to be capable of sweeping away late-stage rotating pill realm masters, really couldn't be underestimated. Yi Chen, that genius disciple from the western wilderness I told you about, is also quite notorious in the first holy temple, and he even ranks in the top 10 on the sky list among the countless disciples of the entire heavenly sacred palace. The disciple is named Yin Qianjue.
Mu Wing told Ye Chen.
Yin Qianjue. Yi Chen nodded, committing the name to memory. Yi Chen, if you truly wish to contribute to the Southern Territory, you should join the heavenly sacred palace. Mu Qingqing looked at Yi Chen. Only within the heavenly sacred palace can you receive superior guidance, gain better cultivation insights, and learn the optimal methods to break through realms. After all, the heavenly sacred palace is home to the best heavenly saints of the entire barbaric wilderness continent, and the summation of their cultivation experience is unmatched by any other sect. I see you've come all the way to the Taiye Sword sect. Were you thinking of joining it? Although Taiye Sword sect is a third-grade sect, it has major flaws. Not only does it specialize in sword techniques to the exclusion of other arts, but its overall strength is also far behind the heavenly sacred palace. Yi Chen, do consider my invitation carefully, Mu Qingqing said, looking at him. Chapter 287. Little Fox Mu Qingqing. Yi Chen nodded. What Mu Qingqing said was indeed true. The heavenly sacred palace was the #1 sect in the central region, and could even be said to be the #1 sect in the barbaric wilderness continent. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or its connections with the other 32 continents, joining the heavenly sacred palace was indeed more beneficial for a martial artist's cultivation than joining the Taiye Sword sect. On the other hand, Yi Chen was more concerned about those demon sect disciples cultivating in the heavenly sacred palace. If he didn't know, Yi Chen wouldn't have thought too much about it. But knowing that these demon sect disciples were cultivating in the heavenly sacred palace, especially those like Yin Qianjue who could very well step into the heavenly saint realm, Yi Chen naturally had to be extremely cautious. Only by joining the heavenly sacred palace could he have a clear understanding of the strength of the demon sect disciples within this #1 sect and be prepared to truly confront this potential threat to the 13 countries of the Southern Territory. Now, the only thing Yi Chen was still considering was Zhang Yao. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's divine consciousness directly entered the azure blue mansion, ready to look at Zhang Yao, who was still undergoing her bloodline awakening in the Phoenix blood pool. Calculating the time, Zhang Yao should be coming out of her bloodline awakening in a few days. Just as Yi Chen's divine consciousness entered the azure blue mansion, the voice of the Phoenix spirit directly transmitted into his mind. Yi Chen, accept the girl's invitation and join the heavenly sacred palace. Yi Chen didn't expect to hear the Phoenix spirit say such a thing the moment his divine consciousness entered the azure blue mansion. I heard the conversation you had with that girl. The Phoenix spirit revealed itself in the azure blue mansion. I was worried the girl might pose a threat to you, and used a special sacred artifact to calculate, and unexpectedly, it showed that you and Zhang Yao indeed have an inexplicable connection with the heavenly sacred palace. The divination indicates that going to the heavenly sacred palace would be the best choice for you and Zhang Yao in the central region. The Phoenix spirit's words left Yi Chen taken aback. Divination. There is such a sacred artifact that tests fate and choices? Seeing Yi Chen's confusion, the Phoenix spirit laughed. There is a treasure in the azure blue mansion called the Pushback 36 Divinations Map, which can predict good and bad fortunes. It is a special divination-type treasure of my divine Phoenix clan. Yi Chen nodded, feeling impressed that the azure blue mansion, one of the 8 great treasure troves of the ancient clans from the upper realm and belonging to the divine Phoenix clan, indeed contained many wondrous items. By the way, Elder Phoenix Spirit, when can Zhang Yao complete her bloodline awakening? Yi Chen asked. He had asked the Phoenix Spirit this question many times already. In the central region, the person Yi Chen was most concerned about was of course Zhang Yao. It's soon. In another 7 days, Zhang Yao should be able to complete her bloodline awakening, the Phoenix Spirit said. Yi Chen, Jiang Yao truly has the most precious true phoenix bloodline of the divine phoenix clan. This bloodline awakening is unexpectedly good, even reaching the best possible state of awakening for the divine phoenix clan. She has already awakened the nirvana totem of the true spiritual divine beast, the phoenix, and is now in the final stages of her bloodline's revival. When she comes out, you will be truly surprised. 7 more days to complete the bloodline awakening and leave the azure blue mansion. Hearing the phoenix spirit give a definite time frame, Yi Chun was also delighted. What concerned Yi Chun the most was Jiang Yao, and the fact that she could complete her bloodline awakening, and as the phoenix spirit had said, in the best possible state, made Yi Chun incredibly happy. Yi Chun promised the girl to go cultivate in the heavenly sacred palace. You and Jiang Yao stepping into the heavenly sacred palace will give you both great assistance. After speaking of Jiang Yao's matters, the phoenix spirit once again reminded Yi Chun.
Ye Chen nodded.
His previous hesitation was due to his concern about the connection between Jiang Yao and the heavenly sacred palace. Now that the phoenix spirit had said so, Yi Chun certainly wouldn't hesitate anymore. The heavenly sacred palace, the #1 sect in the central region, the strongest second-grade sect in the barbaric wilderness continent. Then he would go to this sect and take a look. Yi Chen's divine consciousness followed the phoenix spirit to take another look at Jiang Yao in the phoenix blood pool, then withdrew from the azure blue mansion and returned to his body. Then Yi Chun looked over at Mu Qingqing. While Yi Chun was communicating with the phoenix spirit through his divine consciousness, Mu Qingqing thought he was contemplating and did not rush him. Now, seeing Yi Chun look up at her, Mu Qingqing smiled. So, Yi Chun, have you made a decision? Yi Chun nodded. I accept your invitation to join the heavenly sacred palace. Hearing Yi Chun agree to her invitation, Mu Qingqing's eyes creased into a smile. Going out as an envoy this time, grandfather said I wouldn't be able to pick out a talented martial artist. And the other envoys even bet that the martial artists they picked would definitely be stronger than the one I chose. Humph. Wait until I bring Yi Chun back. It will surely surprise them all. Yi Chun is only 15 years old and can already sweep through mid-stage World Dan experts. He can even fight against late-stage World Dan experts, and there are many techniques I haven't even seen. Such talent, placed in the heavenly sacred palace, will surely be among the very top. Then, let grandfather and the other envoys be truly astonished, Mu Qingqing thought to herself. As the girl was thinking, Yi Chen's voice came to her ears again. However, what? Mu Qingqing lifted her beautiful eyes to look at Yi Chen. Yi Chen, you aren't going to change your mind, are you? Yi Chen shook his head with a smile. A decision I've made, of course, won't change. What I meant to say is I have another companion, a very important person to me. If she also wants to join the heavenly sacred palace, would that be possible? A very important person? Mu Qingqing's sly eyes smiled. I get it. It must be a girl. No problem. If she has a strong enough talent, I, as an envoy, can apply for a spot for her to join the heavenly sacred palace. Strong enough talent? Of course, she is strong, Yi Chun said with a smile. Jiang Yao was from the Divine Phoenix clan of the Upper Realm. Even within the Divine Phoenix clan, she belonged to the most precious true Phoenix bloodline. In Phoenix Spirit's words, within 10 years, Jiang Yao would have an absolute assurance of stepping into the heavenly saint realm. Without having completed the bloodline awakening, Jiang Yao, relying on herself in the lower realm, had cultivated the extremely difficult Divine Phoenix clan's secret bloodline method to the second layer, astonishing the Phoenix Spirit. Now, Jiang Yao, soon to complete her bloodline awakening, even Yi Chun didn't know what achievements she would reap. Such talent, placed in the lower realm, could shock everyone, and it could even be said that joining the heavenly sacred palace merely served to give Jiang Yao a better shot at challenging the heavenly saint realm. The heavenly sacred palace was far from being the place where Phoenix Spirit hoped Jiang Yao would stay for long. Yi Chun certainly wasn't worried whether Jiang Yao's talent met the standards of the heavenly sacred palace. If Jiang Yao wasn't sufficient, then it was feared that others would be even less so. Seeing Yi Chen's unwavering confidence, Mu Qingqing's eyes shone even brighter. Yi Chun, where's your companion? You've piqued my interest. I want to meet her too. She is still in secluded cultivation. In a few days you will be able to see her, Yi-Chun said. Yi-Chun, you actually possess a spatial sacred artifact. Hearing Yi-Chun say this, Mu Qingqing's beautiful eyes went wide with amazement. She knew she hadn't noticed anyone else around Yi-Chun, but Yi-Chun had said that in a few days, they would be able to meet his companion. Evidently, the companion Yi-Chun spoke of was cultivating in a space. A space that could accommodate the cultivation of a martial artist was absolutely at the level of a sacred artifact. Mu Qingqing, coming from the heavenly sacred palace, had of course seen sacred artifacts, but Yi-Chun was only 15 years old and came from the impoverished southern territory. Yet he possessed a sacred artifact. This naturally surprised Mu Qingqing once more. Seeing the surprised look on Mu Qingqing's face, Yi-Chun just smiled, and then he asked her, joining the heavenly sacred palace is no problem, but what about the requirements you mentioned before for entering the first holy temple? The first holy temple, according to Mu Qingqing, was where the most talented disciples of the heavenly sacred palace below the heavenly saint realm concentrated on their cultivation, and the talented Yin Qianjue from the demon sects was cultivating there. Yi-Chun naturally wanted to join the most powerful first holy temple. The first holy temple? Mu Qingqing's eyes shifted, and she smiled lightly. The more talented, the better for joining. Normally, as an envoy, the martial artists I select can at most join the second holy temple. But if you can find a heavenly saint realm powerhouse to endorse you, in addition to the recommendation of an envoy, joining the first holy temple is not impossible. Yi-Chun, I have already witnessed your talent. Leave the matter of joining the first holy temple to me. Thank you, Mu Qingqing. Watching the girl in front of him pat her chest confidently, guaranteeing this to him, Yi-Chun was also somewhat touched. He had encountered this girl by chance, and she had been quite good to him. Nevertheless, you mentioned needing a heavenly saint to endorse me, so who should we look for? Yi-Chun asked. Don't be formal with me. As an envoy, selecting a formidable martial artist will earn me admiration in the heavenly sacred palace, Mu Qingqing said with a smile. As for finding a heavenly saint to endorse, the girl's sly eyes gleamed. Normally, I could ask my grandfather, but since he was convinced that I wouldn't find a formidable martial artist on this trip, will not bother him. However, there happens to be an excellent candidate right now, the girl said, pointing with her fair finger in the direction of Taiye Sword sect behind the Misty Sea Forest. You mean? Yi-Chun remembered that the higher-ranked demon kings they had met earlier had said that the most powerful supreme elder of the Taiye Sword sect was a person from the heavenly sacred palace. Seeing Mu Qingqing's demeanor, could it be that she intended to seek that supreme elder's endorsement? Exactly. Upon seeing Yi-Chun come to understand, Mu Qingqing smiled lightly. It's been a long time since I've seen Elder Shao, and this time, he must do me this favor. Besides, it's still a few months until the deadline for an envoy to return with selected martial artists to the heavenly sacred palace. Since we've come to the Taiye Sword sect, we certainly should drop in for a good visit. Yi-Chun, the Taiye Sword sect has many treasures that could aid your cultivation, and I saw that you have yet to fully master the high-level sword formation you were using. This time, watch me secure a great opportunity for you to practice sword formations at the Taiye Sword sect. I also have to get some fine treasures from Elder Shao. By the end, Mu Qingqing's eyes sparkled with cunning smiles, as if she were a little fox plotting something. Chapter 288 Taiye City. Watching Mu Qingqing's fox-like swirling beautiful eyes, Yi-Chun simply smiled. The girl before him was completely different from Jiang Yao in character. Jiang Yao was gentle like water, whereas Mu Qingqing had a sly look in her eyes. At a glance, one could tell she was a girl with many tricks up her sleeve. Let's go. Now that the matters here are settled, we shall head to the Taiye Sword sect, Yi-Chun said to Mu Qingqing with a smile. Though he had already decided to join the heavenly sacred palace, having arrived at the legendary third-grade great sect, the Taiye Sword sect, and even if he wasn't looking for Elder Shao Supreme Elder, Yi-Chun still wanted to take a good look around the Taiye Sword sect. At this moment, Mu Qingqing, evidently having finalized her cunning little plans, giggled and nodded to Yichun. Let's go. Through the Misty Sea Forest and Taiye City, and we'll be at the Taiye Sword Sect. Now that the two were on the same side, the 18 Demon Kings summoned by Mu Qingqing using Diaoer would certainly not hinder Yichun anymore. It's been tough on you all. You can go back now. Mu Qingqing turned her small head and spoke to the 10 high-ranking Demon Kings. Not at all, not at all. It's our honor to serve the great ones of the heavenly sacred palace. The 10 high-ranking Demon Kings shook their heads repeatedly, and then their eyes swept over Yichun. Little lad, you're lucky. From now on, you are a great one of the heavenly sacred palace. The words of the 10 high-ranking Demon Kings left Yichun somewhat bemused. It seems these high-ranking demon spirits hold the heavenly sacred palace in high admiration, Yichun felt inwardly. Still, Yichun greeted the 10 high-ranking Demon Kings with a smile. Although these Demon Kings had tried to stop him, and the other 8 mid-ranking Demon Kings even fought with him, there was no ill will between them. After bidding farewell to Yichun and Mu Qingqing, the 10 high-ranking Demon Kings roared as they flew away. Eventually, along with the other 7 mid-ranking Demon Kings and the previously unconscious, now awakened Bear Demon King, they disappeared into the vast Misty Sea Forest and were completely gone from sight. Seeing the Misty Sea Forest return to peace, Yichun's eyes also turned towards the endless forest behind. What is the Taiye Sword Sect like? He wondered. And what about Elder Shao Supreme Elder? Who will recommend me? The strongest Supreme Elder of the Taiye Sword Sect? A powerful being at the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint realm? I haven't yet met a mid-stage Heavenly Saint powerhouse. Yichun's heart filled with anticipation for the Taiye Sword Sect. He was about to enter, and the mid-stage Heavenly Saint Strong Elder Shao Supreme Elder he was about to meet. Then Yichun and Mu Qingqing continued to fly towards the end of the Misty Sea Forest, towards the direction of the Taiye Sword Sect. Mu Qingqing, how can you fly so fast at such a young age? What, Yichun? You are participating in the Spirit Sea Realm Swordfighting Tournament, this time in the Central Region. The Spirit Sea Realm Swordfighting Tournament is a basic-level swordfighting tournament. The strong sword cultivators from those third-grade sword sects usually don't participate, but if you really want to join, I have a good idea. Mu Qingqing, what kind of spirit beast is this little Diaoer? Why does it keep sleeping? Were those 18 Demon Kings driven by it? Yichun, how did you cultivate so powerfully in the Southern Territory? On the way, Yichun and Mu Qingqing chatted and asked each other questions, gradually learning a lot about one another. About the time it takes 2 incense sticks to burn, they had flown to the end of the Misty Sea Forest. Is that Taiye City ahead? Having finally passed through the vast Misty Sea Forest, Yichun and Mu Qingqing stopped the idle chat and looked forward. When Yichun saw the huge city that appeared, his eyes flashed with excitement. The huge city that emerged was just as immense as Dragon Abyss City, which Yichun first saw when he arrived in the Central Region. However, compared to Dragon Abyss City, the huge city ahead had a different characteristic. Within this city, countless buildings stood like towering swords piercing the sky. Even before approaching the city, Yichun felt a soaring sword intent sweeping towards him, and he saw sword cultivators, with their precious swords on their backs, flying across the sky above the city. Yes, that ahead is Taiye City. Yichun, look behind the city further away. That's the Taiye Sword Sect. Clearly familiar with the Taiye Sword Sect, Mu Qingqing pointed beyond the immense city towards a distant part of the sky. Following Mu Qingqing's direction, Yichun saw that beyond the giant city, towering mountain ranges stood at the horizon. Clearly, those were the mountain gates of the Taiye Sword Sect. Having finally stepped into the territory of the Taiye Sword Sect, Yichun's heart stirred with excitement. Yichun, let's head into Taiye City first. The mountain gate of the Taiye Sword Sect is not easily entered by those who are not from the sect. Since you've decided not to join the Taiye Sword Sect, it would be inappropriate to disturb that rotating pill. I can have Diaoer go meet Elder Shao first, and have Elder Shao come to receive us into the mountain gate. Taiye City boasts an incomparable delicacy that you simply can't miss out on. We can savor that delicacy while waiting for Elder Shao. Mu Qingqing said to Yichun. Yichun nodded. Ever since he arrived in the central region and encountered the Sher family trio, he had learned from them that it was difficult to enter the Tai sword sect. Even martial artists in the rotating pill realm had to submit a visitation request and receive approval to get in. Initially, Yichun had a letter from Fairy Jialuo to her friend, requesting that Yichun and Zhongyao be allowed to cultivate in the Tai sword sect. However, now that he had decided to head for the Heavenly Sacred Palace instead of joining the Tai sword sect, he really shouldn't disturb Fairy Jialuo's friend in the rotating pill realm with that letter, as Mu Qingqing had suggested. Yichun planned, once Elder Shao Supreme Elder took him into the Tai sword sect, to find an opportunity to personally meet with the cultivator in the later stage of rotating pill realm and convey Fairy Jialuo's greetings. Let's go. This time, it'll be up to you to get us into the Tai sword sect, Yichun said to Mu Qingqing with a smile. Delicacies? What kind of peerless delicacy does Tai City have? Upon entering Tai City and arriving outside a massive building, Yichun finally realized the delicacy Mu Qingqing had mentioned truly was something extraordinary. Just outside the building, Yichun smelled an incredibly enticing aroma that, upon a light sniff, seemed to fly into his body, making him feel utterly refreshed. It was as if he had consumed an immortal pill or some miraculous fruit. If one were to actually go inside, presumably the exquisite culinary delights would be even more tantalizing. Yichun, this is the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion I told you about. There are lots of delicious treats here, especially the sword fong rice. That's a unique and unparalleled delicacy in Tai City. I've been wanting to have it again ever since I tried it last time. By the end, Mu Qingqing seemed like a little glutton, nearly drooling at the thought. Yichun and Mu Qingqing chatted as they walked towards the massive building known as the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. By this time, the snow-white mink dower in Mu Qingqing's arms had vanished. Right after stepping into Tai City, Mu Qingqing whispered to the snow-white mink, which then flew directly towards the mountain gate of Tai sword sect behind the city to find Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Through his exchanges with Mu Qingqing, Yichun learned what the snow-white mink dower was. Mu Qingqing told him that dower was a peculiar spirit beast that her grandfather had found on the Ice Palace snowfield in the extreme north. This spirit beast had a mysterious ability to command other demon beasts, with nearly all demon beasts below the Heavenly Saint realm susceptible to its control. As for dower's own strength, it had reached the Heavenly Saint realm, but because it was found in a frozen state on the Ice Palace snowfield, it seemed to have regressed in its spiritual intelligence after being defrosted, resembling a newborn spirit beast. That was the reason why Mu Qingqing was able to establish a master-servant bond with it successfully. Hearing that dower hailed from the Ice Palace snowfield in the extreme north made Yichun pause in surprise. This was the second time he heard of the Ice Palace snowfield. The first time was when Heavenly Saint Long Xian mentioned sensing the presence of Heavenly Saint Dekong there, a spirit beast that was at the Heavenly Saint realm and could regress in intelligence after being frozen. This made Yichun grow even more curious about the Ice Palace snowfield. Heavenly Treasure Pavilion was an immensely large building. As soon as they entered, Yichun saw numerous sword-wielding cultivators enjoying fine foods within the pavilion. When Yichun and Mu Qingqing stepped into the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, they immediately attracted the attention of many people. These gazes, though, were almost all focused on Mu Qingqing. At 14, Mu Qingqing was already exceedingly beautiful, not to mention her delicately perfect little face and her full, enticing chest. Just her pair of long, straight legs alone made it hard for many to look away. Moreover, the youthful vivacity and cunning in her eyes naturally emitted a charming and seductive air that easily captivated people. Plus, coming from the prestigious Heavenly Sacred Palace, she had a very special aura about her, which held a mysterious allure for many disciples of various sects. It was only Yichun, who was often in the company of Zhang Yao, who wasn't too concerned with Mu Qingqing's beauty, whereas others seemed powerless to resist such an enchanting young lady. Yichun, everything in this Heavenly Treasure Pavilion is quite expensive, and only powerful martial artists frequent this place, said Mu Qingqing, unconcerned by the scrutiny, as she pulled Yichun towards an empty seat. Her charming voice made many go weak in the knees, and upon seeing Yichun next to her, quite a few felt increasingly uncomfortable. He's just a boy in the early stages of the spirit sea realm, and yet he gets to be in the company of such a beautiful girl. I'm in the rotating pill realm, and I don't have such good fortune. Many martial artists looked at Yi-chun with a mix of envy and jealousy. Seeing their expressions, Yi-chun touched his nose in resignation. This is what they covet and envy? If they knew the girl who was truly with him was Jiang Yao, who was even more beautiful and graceful than Mu Qingqing, wouldn't they go crazy with jealousy? Yi-chun just smiled and shook his head. Chapter 289. Slap and Send Flying. Under countless watchful eyes, Yi-chun and Mu Qingqing made their way to a seat by the window and sat down. The table and chairs at this seat were crafted from azure wood. Sitting there, Yi-chun felt a faint true qi swirling around his body. This wood could actually absorb and emit true qi autonomously. It really lives up to the reputation of a third-grade great sect. Just this city below the mountain gate has such an extraordinary restaurant, Yi-chun exclaimed with emotion. Looking at the table, he noticed many bamboo sticks placed on one side. Yi-chun saw that these bamboo sticks had names of dishes and their prices written on them. Sky Cage Spirit Lotus, 300 lower-grade spirit stones. Ice Spirit Whelk, 400 lower-grade spirit stones. Azure Dragon True Blood, 1,000 lower-grade spirit stones. Blazing Flame Liquor, 600 lower-grade spirit stones. 8 Treasures Spirit Meat, 1,200 lower-grade spirit stones. The price tagged behind each dish was actually calculated in spirit stones. Yi-chun remembered the 6 strong figures from the Heavenly Wind Kingdom saying that only martial artists in the rotating pill realm began using spirit stones. Seeing the prices of these dishes, even an ordinary martial artist in the early stages of the rotating pill realm probably couldn't afford to eat them. Yi-chun looked around and saw that, indeed, middle and late-stage rotating pill realm martial artists were the majority in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, with a few disciples from the Spirit Sea realm who also seemed to have some significant backgrounds. Among the many bamboo sticks for dishes, Yi-chun noticed the widest and most conspicuous one. It read, Sword Fong Rice, 3,000 lower-grade spirit stones each. Sword Fong Rice was precisely what Mu Qingqing had been talking about all along. Yi-chun was somewhat astounded. 1 grain for 3,000 lower-grade spirit stones? Was 1 grain enough to eat? Seeing Yi-chun's surprised expression, Mu Qingqing chuckled. Yi-chun, the dishes here are all prepared using a top-grade precious utensil, so they are priced in spirit stones. Many of the ingredients in these dishes are extremely rare, especially this Sword Fong Rice, which is an exclusive product of the Tai Sword Sect. It's said that the Sword Fong Rice grows in Tai Sword Sect's sword forest, nurtured day and night by countless sword auras, and it requires the care of a martial artist at the rotating pill realm level to successfully cultivate it. Eating this rice can improve the 3 vital signs of essence, energy, and spirit, beneficial for elevating one's life level. Even its scent is uniquely fragrant, making one unable to resist eating it as soon as they smell it. I ate it once before, and the taste lingered for a long time after returning home. It's a pity that Sword Fong Rice is said to have many restrictions from harvest to cooking. It can't be taken away, or else I'd have liked to take some with me. By the end of her explanation, Mu Qingqing was like a little glutton, almost drooling. As Mu Qingqing explained these dishes to Yi-chun, many of the martial artists who were paying attention to them showed disdainful expressions when they saw Yi-chun's look of surprise. Look at him, he must be new to Tai City, not even knowing what Sword Fong Rice is. A martial artist at the early stage of the Spirit Sea realm dares to come here to dine in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. He probably can't afford any dish here. If he can't eat anything in the end, that would be quite embarrassing. Despite these martial artists keeping their dismissive voices low, Yi-chun and Mu Qingqing, with their immensely strong divine senses, heard them loud and clear. Mu Qingqing gave Yi-chun a gentle smile. Others might not understand Yi-chun, but she knew a lot about him. Having followed Yi-chun to the Tai Sword Sect, Mu Qingqing noticed that Yi-chun was using top-grade spirit stones to recover the true qi expended for flying. Top-grade spirit stones. Those were things that even late-stage rotating pill realm martial artists rarely came in contact with. They were items usable only by Heavenly Saint realm martial artists. The dishes in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion might be expensive, but a single top-grade spirit stone was enough to eat here for a year without running out. Just to understand, one top-grade spirit stone could be exchanged for 1,000 high-grade spirit stones, while one high-grade spirit stone could be exchanged for 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones, equivalent to the price of 1,000 lower-grade spirit stones. That is to say, just one top-grade spirit stone could be exchanged for more than 1 billion lower-grade spirit stones. These martial artists thought Yi Chen couldn't afford the food in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, but they didn't realize that Yi Chen's current wealth equaled the reserves of the cliff Heavenly Saints accumulated over thousands of years, surpassing many Heavenly Saints and not to mention the martial artists in this restaurant. While Mu Qingqing chuckled softly, Yi Chen also shook his head with a smile. His amazement was only due to the fact that the dishes were priced in spirit stones. He truly wasn't concerned about the cost of these spirit stones. Unexpectedly, he ended up being looked down upon by the martial artists of Taie City. Mu Qingqing, go ahead and order. Yi Chen said to Mu Qingqing with a gentle smile. This meal I'll treat you. All right, then I shall feast generously. Mu Qingqing's sly fox-like eyes twinkled with mischief. She glanced around at the martial artists who were sneakily looking at them, and then the young girl gestured gracefully, summoning the waiter over. This waiter was a martial artist at the early stage of the Spirit Sea realm, which made Yi Chen recognize the formidable strength of the Taie sword sect once again. Come on, waiter. Serve one portion of all these dishes, and bring 2 grains of sword fong rice. Mu Qingqing lightly tapped her finger, promptly ordering more than 10 different dishes indicated by the bamboo sticks. Seeing Mu Qingqing's lavish way of ordering, those martial artists watching her and Yi Chen with stealth were agape in shock. When these martial artists dined in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, they had to carefully calculate the prices. Yet this young girl ordered as if the price didn't matter, only choosing whatever tasted good. Who was this young girl? Such extravagance. Turning to Yi Chen, the gathered martial artists saw that when Mu Qingqing was ordering the dishes, Yi Chen merely smiled indifferently and showed no intention of stopping her. These dishes are priced with spirit stones. These 2 from the Spirit Sea realm, they wouldn't be ignorant of what spirit stones are, right? The martial artists were abuzz with speculation. Mu Qingqing was already at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea realm, while Yi Chen had also altered his aura to appear as if he was at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea realm. The 2 of them were indeed quite conspicuous among the rotating pill realm powerhouses gathered in the pavilion. The martial artists were astounded, and even the waiter was somewhat baffled. Esteemed guests, are you really going to order these? The price. Just get them ready and bring them up. Mu Qingqing paid no heed to the waiter's hesitant words. After ordering, she casually waved her hand, indicating for the waiter to prepare the food. While the waiter was still hesitating, a voice cut in abruptly. Waiter, go ahead and make them. If they can't pay, I, Mr. Liu, will cover the cost. Mu Qingqing, who had been chatting and laughing with Yi Chen, furrowed her brows when she heard this voice. Yi Chen also frowned and looked up in the direction of the voice. They saw a young man in white, fanning himself with a folding fan, smiling as he walked towards them. Behind the young man, 4 others, dressed in brocade robes, followed. All 5 exuded the aura of the mid-stage rotating pill realm. The waiter clearly recognized the newcomer, addressing the young man in white with respectful tones. Yes, Mr. Liu. I will arrange for these dishes to be made immediately. With that, the waiter scurried off toward the kitchen. Seeing the waiter's understanding demeanor, the young man in white smiled faintly. Then, he stepped forward with his entourage, heading straight for Mu Qingqing. As for Yi Chen, these few seemed to have outright ignored him. I am Lu Zheng. May I know the young lady's name? And would you honor me by sampling these delicacies of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion together? Seeing the straightforward approach of Lu Zheng, the young man in white, who completely disregarded Yi Chen, Mu Qingqing's clever eyes twirled, and she shook her head decisively. Your strength is too weak. I don't want to dine with you. Your strength is too weak. Mu Qingqing's words almost made Lu Zheng stumble. He was at the mid-stage of the rotating pill realm and was outright rejected by this young girl. Strength too weak? But the young man across from her was merely at the initial stage of the spirit sea realm. Why not say his strength was weak too? It was at this moment that Lu Zheng remembered Yi Chun. Yi Chun could only smile wryly in response. This girl, Mu Qingqing, was indeed quick-witted. Such a retort was probably enough to infuriate Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng felt his anger rising as he saw the girl in front of him give him no face and the boy merely smiling faintly. At the Taiye sword sect, he had a significant background, being a prominent figure within the sect, let alone here in Taiye City outside the sect. He had never been slighted in this manner before. He, since the lady thinks my strength is lacking, then I will prove it to her, Lu Zheng said, turning his attention to Yi Chun. With a grasp of his palm, he reached out to seize Yi Chun. Seeing Lu Zheng suddenly attack Yi Chun, many of the martial artists in the pavilion cried out in alarm. Many of them recognized Lu Zheng, knowing that within the mid-stage rotating pill realm, he was also a top figure with a powerful background. Even martial artists in the later stages of the rotating pill realm would not dare to provoke him on normal days. Now that Lu Zheng had made a move against a young martial artist from the Spirit Sea realm, these martial artists already anticipated that the young man would likely be gravely injured by this single strike. Beautiful girls are always a source of trouble, many sighed to themselves. It was clear to them that Lu Zheng's attack was sparked by irritation from Mu Qingqing's beauty. As Lu Zheng made his move, the four young men standing behind him crossed their arms and smiled, as if such a scene was all too familiar and not at all surprising. But Yi Chun, facing Lu Zheng's attack, was truly angry. He and Mu Qingqing were peacefully enjoying their time until this young man came over and brazenly interfered, and now he even took the initiative to strike. Moreover, the nature of the attack was ruthless. Yi Chen's divine sense was extremely powerful, and he had detected a hidden trick in the youth's hand the moment he struck. An ordinary person would likely suffer surface injuries from his grasp, but the underlying damage would certainly affect their cultivation foundation. Such a venomous attack. Clearly, this young man was accustomed to acting with impunity in Taiye City. If it were another young man, he would probably have incurred this trouble for no reason. Such a person must not be let off lightly. As these thoughts flickered through Yi Chen's mind, Lu Zheng's hand had already reached him. In a split second, amidst the screaming of the martial artists in the pavilion, and just as Lu Zheng's hand was about to grasp Yi Chen's chest, just as Mu Qingqing telepathically told Yi Chun to teach the young man a lesson, Yi Chun made his move. Swish! In a moment that was as fast as lightning and as fleeting as a spark, Yi Chen's hand stretched out and intercepted the young man's palm sooner than it had launched. Yi Chen's hand clamped down, and with a crisp snap, the sound of breaking bones resounded immediately. Then, with a surge of true qi from Yi Chen's hand, all the meridians in the young man's arm were completely ruptured. After that, Yi Chen lifted his hand and slapped the man, sending him flying backward into the halfway up the pavilion with a loud smack. Chapter 290, Sword Fang Rice. When Lu Zheng was sent flying into the air by a palm strike from Yi Chen, a momentary deathly silence fell over the entire Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. What just happened? A junior at the early stage of the Spirit Sea Realm actually sent a mid-stage cultivator of the rotating pill realm flying with a slap? Everyone couldn't believe their eyes and rubbed them vigorously. Boom! As Lu Zheng, who was sent flying, crashed to the ground and couldn't help but let out a painful wail, the momentary silence turned into a sweeping wave of chatter throughout the pavilion. How did he make his move? Did any of you see it clearly? Too fast. The move was simply too fast. Even faster than a mid-stage rotating pill realm strongman. Who exactly is this young man, and how is he so formidable? Previously, many martial artists who looked down upon Yi Chen's realm now screamed out in shock. When they looked at Yi Chen again, there was not one who did not have a look of fear in their eyes. To send a mid-stage rotating pill realm strongman flying with a single slap. This strength, even among the countless cultivators of the rotating pill realm in this pavilion, very few could achieve it. Everyone could see now, this young man definitely possessed the combat power of a late-stage rotating pill realm, and among those, he was not weak. Thinking back to their various ridicules of the young man before, many people's faces felt burning hot, and some even dared not look at Yi Chen again, fearing they would anger the young man and bring his wrath upon themselves. When Lu Zhang was sent flying by Yi Chen's palm strike, his arm bones fractured and his meridians shattered, leading to continuous wailing. The four young men in brocade robes behind Lu Zhang drastically changed their expressions and hurriedly rushed over to him. My arm! Seeing Lu Zhang wailing in agony as he cradled his arm, the four young men were totally dumbstruck. One must know, for a mid-stage rotating pill realm strongman, a fractured arm is a minor issue, certainly not something to wail over, but looking at Lu Zhang's condition, it was clear he was enduring immense pain. What these four did not know was that Yi Chen, upon discovering Lu Zhang's stealthy move, had the idea of punishing this ruthless young man. Yi Chen's attack might have seemed simple from the outside, but in an instant, he had activated his primordial true chi and sword intense within the move, directly crippling Lu Zhang's arm. Even if Lu Zhang could heal his injuries later on, this ordeal would likely leave a scar ingrained in his memory. My arm! Kill him for me! As the pain nearly caused him to pass out, Lu Zhang, grinding his teeth and glaring at Yi Chen, barked at the four men. Oh? You still want to come at me? Yi Chen looked indifferently at the four men. This glance scared the four men into retreating several steps backward. The strength of these four men was almost on par with Lu Zhang's, and seeing what had happened to Lu Zhang, none of them dared to take action again. The hasty retreat of the four men infuriated Lu Zhang, who was on the ground. At that moment, Mu Qingqing gently stroked her palms, looking at Lu Zhang with a smile. I told you earlier, your strength is too weak, yet you didn't believe it. You! Mu Qingqing's words, combined with the excruciating pain and extreme anger, caused Lu Zhang to faint on the spot. These two, seeing the nonchalant demeanor of Yi Chen and Mu Qingqing toward Lu Zhang and his companions, all the martial artists were stunned. They had never seen Spirit Sea Realm martial artists like them before, generous in ordering dishes and fierce in action. Since when did Taie City have such martial artists? Many began to speculate about the identities of Yi Chen and Mu Qingqing. As the martial artists were abuzz with discussion, the four young men in brocade robes saw Lu Zhang faint and their expressions turned dramatic. The men, carrying Lu Zhang, looked towards Yi Chen and Mu Qingqing. You've stirred up a huge trouble. Just wait. There will be consequences for you soon. Stirred up a huge trouble? Mu Qingqing merely smiled and stood up. There hasn't been trouble on the barbaric wilderness continent that I, Mu Qingqing, have been afraid of. If you don't leave, I might have to take action again. As Mu Qingqing spoke, her beautiful eyes gazed at the four men, her indifferent expression causing a shiver in their hearts. Let's go. We'll find Elder Lu. The four men, unnerved by Mu Qingqing's indifferent expression and seeing Yi Chen also standing up, did not dare linger any longer and, carrying Lu Zhang, bolted out of the heavenly treasure pavilion. What was supposed to be a good meal has been spoiled. Mu Qingqing sighed, and her plump lips pouted. No wonder Grandpa said that with a lower realm, troubles always arise when out and about. It seems next time I go out, I'll need to break through to the rotating pill realm first. After sighing, Mu Qingqing looked at Yi Chen, her eyes somewhat gleaming. Yi Chen, the way you took action just now was very decisive. Watching Lu Zhang being sent flying, his incredulous expression made me want to laugh. People like him should be punished. Otherwise, who knows what greater troubles they might cause in the future. Yi Chen recalled Lu Zhang's stealthy move, and his brows knitted together at once. Mu Qingqing nodded in agreement. Her spiritual perception was even stronger than Yi Chen's, and she had, of course, noticed Lu Zhang's underhand tactics. He brought it upon himself. Anyway, we are still going to eat the dishes we ordered. Yi Chen, make sure you taste that sword fong rice later. Don't let these few ruin your mood. Let them come looking if they want. I don't believe that Taie sword sect has anyone with more authority than Elder Shao. I've got to have a word with Elder Shao about this Tai sword sect really needs to sort out its priorities. It's not all about cultivation. Mu Qingqing's sly eyes flickered, apparently struck by a thought, and her mood brightened considerably. Yichen smiled, too, and took his seat. He actually wasn't worried about Lu Zhang, not to mention with Mu Qingqing by his side, and even without her, he had many tricks up his sleeve and a few aces that could protect him completely. The two of them acted as if nothing had happened, not paying any attention to Lu Zhang and the others as they left, sitting at their table waiting for the food to arrive while chatting leisurely. This scene left the martial artists in the restaurant even more astonished. By then, of course, it became clear to the martial artists that this young man and woman must have something to rely on. They weren't as simple as they appeared to be. However, thinking of the background behind Lu Zhang, many martial artists were still somewhat worried. Behind Lu Zhang, there's Elder Lu, a notoriously overprotective person. I wonder how this matter will end up. At this time, the martial artists had no intention of leaving, with quite a few even ordering a couple more dishes, waiting to see how things would develop. The way Yi Chen had sent Lu Zhang flying definitely got the attention of the waiter. At this point, the waiter dared not doubt Yi Chen's ability to pay the bill. He was even more enthusiastic than he had been with Lu Zhang, urging that the food be served quickly. In just a moment, the dishes Mu Qingqing had ordered were all brought to their table. Looking at the array of exquisite dishes in front of him, and with just the aroma alone, Yi Chen's appetite surged. Although cultivators can live off spiritual qi instead of food after cultivating true qi, when there is delicious cuisine available, it should, of course, be well enjoyed. Moreover, all these dishes were precious ones that greatly benefited one's vitality, spirit, and mind, and thus were even more worth savoring. Yi Chen, you must try the sword fang rice. Among all the dishes, Mu Qingqing first turned her attention towards a pair of food boxes, handing one to Yi Chen. Sword fang rice? This box contains sword fang rice? Yi Chen was also curious about what the sword fang rice that Mu Qingqing kept mentioning looked like, so he quickly opened the food box. The moment he opened it, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. Inside the food box lay a palm-sized, sword-shaped crystal white grain of rice. The grain was translucent throughout, with many strange patterns on it. At just a glance, Yi Chen felt his sword intense surging. As soon as he smelled the aroma of the grain, Yi Chen was intoxicated. The scent seemed as if it could penetrate into one's pores and cells, and just breathing in the aroma made him feel as if he'd eaten an immortal fruit, leaving his whole body comfortable and relaxed. Mu Qingqing couldn't help herself and started nibbling on the sword fang rice while Yi Chen held and examined it. The people at the next table over, smelling the aroma of the sword fang rice, swallowed repeatedly and stared fixedly. On their table, however, there was no sword fang rice, only a few plain dishes. Watching Mu Qingqing taking small bites of the sword fang rice, her pink tongue occasionally licking her lips, Yi Chen thought to himself with a smile, "Is it really that delicious?" He then picked up a grain of sword fang rice himself. With just a light bite, the sword fang rice melted in his mouth, and a stream of refreshingly cool qi immediately flowed towards Yi Chen's qi, brain, and throughout his body. In an instant, he felt as if he was bathing in a refreshingly cool breath. His entire body extremely comfortable, all pores and cells opening up and breathing in the true qi of the world. In his qi, the true qi spiritual fluid rippled with shimmering waves, while his mind was refreshingly clear. It was as if a fresh breeze had cleared away all thoughts, brightening them. Such a taste was simply indescribable. Yi Chen had never eaten anything so delicious before. What's more, he couldn't help himself, and in just a couple of bites, he finished the entire grain of sword fang rice. After finishing the sword fang rice, Yi Chen let out a long breath, still savoring the extraordinary sensation. Meanwhile, on the other side, Mu Qingqing finished her grain of sword fang rice as well, and even used her tongue to lick her slender fingers holding it, looking like she hadn't had enough. "How about we get 2 more? Yi Chen said to Mu Qingqing with a smile. "This place only serves 1 grain of sword fang rice per person per day. There's no more," Mu Qingqing pouted. "Oh, that's really a pity," Yi Chen sighed. Well, we'll eat it next time then. Such a great delicacy, of course Yi Chun would like to taste it again. Additionally, he wanted Jiang Yao to try it too. It was just too bad that Jiang Yao was still in seclusion from awakening her bloodline, so it could only wait until the next opportunity. Let's try these other dishes then. With the sword fong rice finished, there were still many other dishes remaining on their table. Though these dishes might not be as tempting as the sword fong rice, they were still considered exotic and delicious. Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing then began to try the other dishes. As they ate, they chatted softly to each other. Just as they were about to finish eating, sudden noises came from outside the restaurant. Soon after, the four young men who had previously carried Lu Zhang ran quickly back into the restaurant, and as soon as they entered, they called out to Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing, "The two of you, come outside. Our elder wants to have a word with you." "Elder?" Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing looked at each other, then stood up together. "We barely started enjoying some gourmet food, and Lu Zheng's reinforcements have already arrived? Is it an elder from the Taiye sword sect?" Chapter 291. Xiao Jiukong. Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing smiled and took steps to walk outside. As they were leaving, a tiny spirit stone flashed lightly from Yi Chen's sleeve and fell onto the table. This was a broken piece of a superior spirit stone that had been placed under the high-quality spirit stones in the life origin coffin when Yi Chun got his hands on several hundred top-notch spirit stones. However, although it was just a tiny piece of a superior spirit stone, it was more than enough to cover the cost of the meal, with some to spare. Even more so, when the waiter saw the piece of the superior spirit stone, he couldn't help but cry out in surprise, "Superior spirit stone!" He had been at the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion for many years and had only seen superior spirit stones a handful of times. Now, he had found one on a Spirit Sea young man. This was, of course, a huge shock to the waiter. As Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing walked toward the outside of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, many martial warriors also began to stand up. "Elder has arrived?" "Elder." Looking at the demeanor of these four individuals, it must be Elder Lu himself who has come. Elder Lu is an early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse. Thinking of Elder Lu's terror, many warriors broke out in a cold sweat for Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing. However, when they heard "Superior Spirit Stone" shouted from the waiter behind them, a gleam flickered through the eyes of these warriors. Superior Spirit Stone. Oh, that was something that Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses commonly used. This young man had used a superior spirit stone right off the bat, which indicated that behind this youth, there might also stand a heavenly saint. No wonder these two are so fearless. It turns out they might have a heavenly saint behind them too. Heavenly saint versus heavenly saint? There's going to be a good show. The warriors all followed not far behind Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing, surging toward the outside of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. Having arrived outside the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing immediately looked up into the void. Inside the tavern, they had used their spiritual sense to survey outside and had seen no one. But now that they were outside the tavern, they could directly see an elderly man in a gray robe, standing in the air with Lu Zhang, who Yi Chun had injured earlier, standing beside him. At this time, Lu Zhang had already woken up and was glaring at Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing with eyes spitting fire. Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse. When they saw the gray-robed elder, both Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing's eyes simultaneously lit up. Previously, they had not even sensed Lu Zhang waking up, obviously because their spiritual perception had been blocked by the gray-robed elder. Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing had both encountered Heavenly Saint Realm beings before, and with the aura exuding from the gray-robed elder, as well as his ability to block their spiritual sense, it was clear that the person who had come was a heavenly saint. It's Elder Lu. It really is Elder Lu. Elder Lu, who is Lu Zheng's uncle, is extremely fond of him. Now that Elder Lu has arrived, he will definitely make trouble for these two youngsters. The warriors not far behind Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing tensed as they looked at the gray-robed elder in the sky. Hearing the discussions of the warriors behind her, Mu Qingqing's eyes initially flashed with brilliance, but after a quick turn, they returned to calm. Elder Lu. Mu Qingqing looked at the gray-robed elder in the sky, Are you the one asking us to come out? We are out now. What do you want? Mu Qingqing's demeanor showed not a trace of respect for the gray-robed elder in the air, as if she were looking at an ordinary martial warrior. This made the gray-robed elder's eyes narrow instantly. Yes, it is I who has called you out. I have heard that you are the ones who injured my grandson, Zheng'er. The gray-robed elder, Elder Lu, shot a look at Mu Qingqing that was as sharp as lightning, and with that, a terrifying pressure descended directly upon Yichan and Mu Qingqing. Humph! At the moment the gray-robed elder's pressure was released, Yichan pushed Mu Qingqing behind him, and instantly, the Heavenly Saint Defense Law bead on Yichen's body suddenly glowed brightly, enveloping him and Mu Qingqing within an immense power of a Heavenly Saint. Boom! 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 In an instant, the terrifying pressure released by Elder Lu struck the Heavenly Saint power emanating from Yichan. In this terrible collision, Yichan and Mu Qingqing did not budge an inch. Yichen's Heavenly Saint Defense Law bead easily fending off the Heavenly Saint's oppressive force. Heavenly Saint power! Upon seeing the Heavenly Saint glow coming from Yichan, Elder Lu's eyes in the void shone sharply. He had recognized that Yichen's realm was Mid-Spirit Sea, and from Lu Zheng's account, he knew that it was Yichan who had truly injured Lu Zheng. Seeing a Mid-Spirit Sea able to defeat a mid-spinning pill stage had already shocked Elder Lu. Upon witnessing Yichen's Heavenly Saint power, Elder Lu felt his heart pound. Having Heavenly Saint power meant that behind this young man, a Heavenly Saint might very well stand. Not only was Elder Lu surprised, Mu Qingqing's eyes also shone brightly. When Elder Lu's pressure was first released, the young lady had intended to use her own moves, but Yichan stepped in front of her first. This time, Yichan surprised her once again. Mu Qingqing did not yet know that Yichan had another trick up his sleeve. The Heavenly Saint Law bead.
Yichan.
Taking a step forward, Mu Qingqing stood shoulder to shoulder with Yichan, her eyes rotating on Yichen's face, revealing strands of a smile. The power of Heavenly Saint. Indeed, there must be a Heavenly Saint behind this youth. When the crowd saw that Yichan and Mu Qingqing withstood the oppressive aura of Elder Lu without budging, their hearts began to race. Their earlier speculations weren't wrong. The youth really did have Heavenly Saint methods. Was this really going to be a contest between Heavenly Saints? Uncle Grandfather. Seeing Elder Lu's eyes flicker and then looking at Yichan, whose body was shimmering with the power of Heavenly Saint, Lu Zheng, who was afraid Elder Lu might not help him, could not help but cry out, "Uncle Grandfather, you must stand up for your grandson. It was this youth who crippled my arm while I was dining at the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. You must help me take revenge." Lu Zheng's wailing made Elder Lu's eyes brim with even colder intent. Meanwhile, Yichan and Mu Qingqing couldn't help but sneer. Mu Qingqing even said, "That's hilarious. While Yichan and I were ordering dishes, I don't know who suddenly barged over and attacked us first. Getting your arm crippled is getting off light." After she finished speaking, Mu Qingqing's sly eyes turned toward Lu Zheng. "Keep spouting nonsense, and be careful I don't cripple your other arm too." Mu Qingqing's threat abruptly silenced Lu Zheng's cries, and the other warriors were stunned by Mu Qingqing. This young girl was incredibly bold to threaten Lu Zheng right in front of Elder Lu, a Heavenly Saint. At that moment, Elder Lu's expression became exceedingly ugly. "Little girl, you dare threaten my grandson right in front of me. Do you really think that just because you have the power of Heavenly Saint, I wouldn't dare to touch you?" Elder Lu had already extended his divine sense into the void and found no trace of any other Heavenly Saint. Furthermore, upon observing the Heavenly Saint Law bead on Yichan, the power of Heavenly Saint emanating from it seemed to have been crafted by an early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm Master at best. For an early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm, Elder Lu didn't feel intimidated. He himself was at the beginning stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm, and moreover, this was Tai Sword Sect's territory. What had he to fear? With this in mind, Elder Lu reached down toward Yichan and Mu Qingqing with a great hand from the void. "For harming my grandson, I won't kill you on account of the Heavenly Saint behind you. However, though I can spare you from death, Punishment is inevitable. I will just discipline you on behalf of your elders, let you taste what it's like to have your arms crippled, so you won't cause trouble outside again. Boom! Instantly, Elder Lu's grabbing hand formed a terrifying spatial vortex, as though the entire void itself were imprisoned, with only a giant spatial hand lunging towards Yi-chan and Mu Qingqing. This was a genuine heavenly saint attack, not mere oppressive aura. Before, by relying on the power of the heavenly saint in the law bead, they could withstand the oppressive aura of a heavenly saint, but to contend with an actual heavenly saint attack using a bead refined by a heavenly saint was much more difficult. Upon seeing the giant hand reaching towards Yi-chan and Mu Qingqing, the warriors behind them cried out in alarm. How terrifying a heavenly saint attack was! If it were to grab any of them, they would not be able to resist. This was the wrath of a heavenly saint, and they were utterly incapable of enduring it. All the warriors looked towards Yi-chan, wondering whether the youth had any more methods to defend against it. Heavenly saint attack? In the instant Elder Lu made his move, Yi-chan's mind stirred, preparing to have the phoenix spirit take him and Mu Qingqing into the Azure Blue Mansion. The Azure Blue Mansion, a treasure of the upper realm, could absolutely withstand the attack from Elder Lu. But just as Yi-chan's mind moved, he heard Mu Qingqing's assertive shout, "Discipline me on behalf of my elders? I'm afraid you're not qualified for that. Elder Shao, if you don't make a move now and I actually get hurt, my grandfather will certainly not let you off the hook." Facing Elder Lu's attack, Mu Qingqing didn't dodge or evade. Instead, her gaze was directed towards a direction in the void. "Elder Shao?" This address from Mu Qingqing made Elder Lu pause even as he was commanding the spatial hand to attack. Yet his controlled spatial hand still subconsciously moved towards Yi-chan and Mu Qingqing. At that moment, an elderly voice came from the void. "Qingqing girl, you really do like to stir up trouble as soon as you arrive." In the face of this elderly voice, Elder Lu's hand that reached towards Yi-chan and Mu Qingqing instantly shattered. Then, the entire void seemed to be constrained by a force much more powerful, such that even Elder Lu in the sky was left completely immobilized. Elder Lu, at the early stage of Heavenly Saint Realm, was restrained by this more dominant force. At that moment, Elder Lu completely lost track of being immobilized as he heard the elderly voice, his entire being growing stupefied, only to utter 4 words in disbelief, "Supreme Elder?" As Elder Lu exclaimed, "Supreme Elder," the entire void was torn open, and an old man with white hair and beard, wearing a white robe, stepped out from the rift. Looking over the shoulder of the white-robed elder, one could see a snow-white mink napping on the elder's body. This snow-white mink was none other than the mink Mu Qingqing had sent to the Tai sword sect. And this white-robed old man was none other than the strongest existence within the entire third-rated great sect Tai sword sect, a mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse, Xiao Jiukong.
Chapter 292. Divine Artefakt, Fallen's Wort.
When Elder Xiao Jiukong emerged from the void, the entire world fell into silence. Elder Xiao Supreme Elder. In the Tai sword sect, he was myth incarnate. Elder Xiao Supreme Elder was not only the strongest within the Tai sword sect, having reached the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm, but had also joined the top sect in the central region, Heavenly Sacred Palace. In the Heavenly Sacred Palace, he held a high status, serving as the deputy master of the First Holy Temple. There were rumors that Elder Xiao Supreme Elder had extremely high mastery over the sword art, to the extent that during his adventures in the Upper Realm's Minor Spirit Realm, even the great sword sects there took notice of him and specially nurtured his talent. It was also said that in his youth, with a sword in hand, Elder Xiao Supreme Elder traveled alone to 32 other continents, earning a formidable reputation. Seeing Elder Xiao Supreme Elder arriving in person, all the Tai sword sect warriors outside the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion were completely awed. As the foremost figure of the Tai sword sect, Elder Xiao Supreme Elder rarely made public appearances, either cultivating in seclusion within the sect's gates or within the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Now, he had personally come here for the girl in front of them. Moreover, from the young girl's words, it was clear that Elder Xiao Supreme Elder had significant ties with her, The warriors of the Taiye sword sect had thought of the heavenly saint backing the girl, but they never imagined that this heavenly saint would be Elder Shao Supreme Elder himself. With Elder Shao Supreme Elder backing her up, no wonder she was so fearless. It wasn't just facing Elder Lu. She could even walk sideways through the entire Taiye sword sect. Looking again at Mu Qingqing and Yi Chun, all of the Taiye sword sect warriors showed fear in their eyes. These two youngsters had too great of a backing. Yi Chun also looked towards Elder Shao Supreme Elder in the sky. This was his first time facing a mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse. Yi Chun saw in Elder Shao Supreme Elder's face a pair of eyes that he dared not look closely into. Those eyes seemed like they contained an endless void within, making one feel as if even their mind would be sucked in and extinguished at a glance. There were also the wrinkle lines on his face like sword scars, combined with his swordchi-like flowing white hair, indicating Elder Shao Supreme Elder's great age, most likely exceeding thousands of years. Yi Chun felt that unlike early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses, whose auras stirred the void and wielded the endless might of the Heavenly Saint, Elder Shao Supreme Elder, having reached the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm, seemed as if he could merge the endless void within his body, as if his body concealed an entire void world. A mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse. This is the might of a mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse. Yi Chun was deeply shocked. He had heard that mastering at least one of the heavenly void laws of metal, wood, water, fire, or earth to perfection could lead to achieving Heavenly Saint status, and upon entering the Heavenly Saint Realm, one could truly begin to comprehend an even more powerful sixth law, the law of space. Early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm beings comprehend the external space law. They can create spatial sacred artifacts and harness the powers of space from the void. When cultivators break through to the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm, it is said they start to comprehend the inner space law, capable of forming countless caves within their bodies, storing endless power of the Heavenly Saint and forming a more powerful cave power. As for late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm beings, it is rumored that such beings have already begun researching the ultimate power of space laws, unbelievably powerful. Yi Chun had not seen a late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm being yet, but the mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm being before him showed Yi Chun what a true powerhouse looked like. Seeing Elder Shao Supreme Elder shatter Elder Lu's early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm attack with a mere wave of his hand, even completely restraining Elder Lu, indicated that early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm beings were utterly defenseless against a mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm opponent. With this thought, Yi Chun took a deep breath. In the entire Southern Territory and Western Wilderness, there were only early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm beings. In the grand battle of the entire Southern Territory and Western Wilderness, the strongest were the early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses. If he could step into the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm, perhaps he alone could dispel the great war of the Western Wilderness. No wonder Heavenly Saint Long Xian, facing the imminent war in the Western Wilderness, went into seclusion to impact the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm. So that was the extent of power one held at that level. After witnessing Elder Shao Supreme Elder, Yi Chun could not help but want to break through to the Heavenly Saint Realm and experience the true power of the Heavenly Saint Realm for himself, to study the inner space law, and possess the power of the inner caves. Yi Chun's eyes shone brightly, his mind filled with myriad thoughts. And when Mu Qingqing saw Elder Shao Supreme Elder finally appear, her beautiful eyes turned, looking straight at Elder Lu and Lu Zheng. Elder Shao, you said that I caused trouble as soon as I arrive, but this time it wasn't me who actively sought trouble. Your people from the Taiye sword sect are just too overbearing, bullying me and even wanting to injure me. Mu Qingqing's words made both Elder Lu and Lu Zheng's minds tremble. If they had known the young girl had Elder Shao Supreme Elder standing behind her, they would never have dared to provoke her. Now when Elder Lu and Lu Zheng heard Mu Qingqing lodging a complaint, they both cried out in alarm, especially Elder Lu, for he knew just how formidable Elder Shao Supreme Elder was. Let alone an ordinary elder like him. Even the other Supreme Elders did not dare to bear the wrath of Elder Shao Supreme Elder. If Elder Shao Supreme Elder were truly to become enraged with him over this girl's matter, then he was certainly finished. What made Elder Lu's heart sink further was that after the girl finished speaking, Elder Shao Supreme Elder's eyes did indeed turn towards him, and his expression was clearly one of intending to stand up for the girl. Lu Chan, Qing says you bullied her, is it true? Elder Shao Supreme Elder asked, looking at Elder Lu. Lu Chan was the true name of Elder Lu. Upon hearing Elder Shao Supreme Elder's question, Elder Lu certainly did not dare to conceal anything and narrated everything he knew in detail, without showing any bias. After hearing his words, Elder Shao Supreme Elder spoke again, questioning the other several martial artists. Having learned the entire truth of the matter, Elder Shao Supreme Elder sighed. Lu Chan, I had already seen the scene of your previous actions. I never expected the cause of the matter to be such a trivial issue. For such a small matter, you, a heavenly saint, struck at two youngsters directly. That was indeed inappropriate. Yes, I was wrong about this matter. Elder Lu repeatedly bowed his head in acknowledgement of his mistake. Elder Shao Supreme Elder then glanced at Mu Qingqing. Since you struck at Qing, no matter what, I must stand up for her. Otherwise, if she feels aggrieved here at the Tai Sword Sect, her grandfather might really trouble me. That old man is famously fond of this girl. The crowd was shaken by Elder Shao Supreme Elder's words. From Elder Shao Supreme Elder's words, they gathered that this young girl's grandfather might even be more formidable than Elder Shao Supreme Elder himself. Could it be that this young girl's grandfather was a late-stage heavenly saint realm existence? Even Yi Chen glanced at Mu Qingqing. He had once asked Mu Qingqing about the status of her grandfather in the heavenly sacred palace, but the girl merely responded with a mysterious smile, never answering directly. Seeing this, it seemed that her background was indeed extraordinary. Noticing everyone's gaze turning towards her, Mu Qingqing's sly eyes shifted as she looked to Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Elder Shao, I'm not someone to hold a grudge over such a thing. Since he didn't harm Yi Chan or me, a light punishment would suffice. A light punishment? Elder Shao Supreme Elder knew the cunning of the girl before him all too well. If he didn't handle this matter properly, he could end up giving this clever girl leverage over him. And that would lead to headaches for him later. However, these thoughts were, of course, not something Elder Shao Supreme Elder would express aloud. He sighed helplessly at Mu Qingqing, then turned his head to look at Elder Lu. Lu Chan, you used your position to bully juniors and laid hands upon the younger generation. This time, you are sentenced to reflect upon your actions in seclusion at ascetic cultivator cliff within the sword sect for the next 300 years. Do not leave the sect during this time. A 300-year confinement. This was Elder Shao Supreme Elder's punishment for Elder Lu. Hearing this punishment, many of the Tai Sword sect disciples took a sharp intake of breath. Many among them were not even 300 years old yet, and Elder Lu had just been sentenced to 300 years of confinement for reflection. Upon hearing Elder Shao Supreme Elder's sentence, Lu Chan didn't dare say a word against it, and hastily accepted the punishment. 300 years of confinement, although it would be tough for him as a heavenly saint, was still bearable. It was better than arousing Elder Shao Supreme Elder's further anger and receiving even greater punishment. All right, you may go and receive your punishment, Elder Shao Supreme Elder said, waving his hand to dismiss Elder Lu after settling the sentence. Elder Lu bowed respectfully toward Elder Shao Supreme Elder, then quickly took Lu Zhang and flew towards the Tai Sword sect, fearing that if he lingered any longer, the girl might say something more and incur additional punishment. How about it, Qing? You're satisfied with this punishment, aren't you? Elder Shao Supreme Elder asked with a smile as he watched Elder Lu fly away. It doesn't matter whether I'm satisfied or not. Frankly, I don't care about that, Mu Qingqing giggled. Elder Shao, the reason for my visit this time is to ask for your help with a matter. What matter? Elder Shao Supreme Elder's gaze shifted to Yi Chan beside Mu Qingqing as he spoke. Able to cultivate to the mid-stage heavenly saint realm, there were few things that could escape his notice. Upon seeing Yi Chan beside Mu Qingqing, Elder Shao Supreme Elder knew that her visit to the Tai Sword sect was surely related to the young man before him. Feeling the penetrating gaze of Elder Shao Supreme Elder, Yi Chan felt as if his entire being was being seen through. Not bad, at the age of 15, to have cultivated to the mid-stage spirit sea, and even daring to face a heavenly saint, although with the aid of a heavenly saint's power, your courage is indeed extraordinary. Elder Shao Supreme Elder commented as he observed Yi Chun, nodding his head. HM? The sword intents on you are not bad either. You have actually cultivated the sword intents to the 3rd level, reaching the extent of a high-order sword matrix. Yi Chen's age, true realm, and even his sword intents were all seen through by Elder Shao Supreme Elder at a glance. Seeing Elder Shao Supreme Elder sizing up Yi Chun, Mu Qingqing smiled gleefully. As expected, Elder Shao is formidable. Indeed, my request for Elder Zhao's help is indeed related to Yi Chun, she affirmed. First, I would like to invite Yi Chun to join the first holy temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, and I hope Elder Shao would be willing to recommend him. Second, Yi Chen's swordsmanship is quite impressive. I would like to ask Elder Shao to allow him the use of the divine artifact, Fallen Sword, so he can enter and cultivate within it. Chapter 293. The Broken Divine Sword. Elder Shao Supreme Elder, please be the recommender and invite Yi Chun to join the first holy temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Lend out the divine artifact, Fallen Sword, for him to cultivate within. The two matters mentioned by Mu Qingqing took the breath away from countless warriors of the Taiye sword sect by her side, their hearts pounding wildly. They finally understood why the mysterious girl and boy had fearlessly approached the Taiye sword sect, even daring to face Elder Lu without trepidation. So it turned out that their visit was related to the Heavenly Sacred Palace. To invite this youth named Yi Chun to join the first holy temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. The warriors of the Taiye sword sect had heard that only envoys of the Heavenly Sacred Palace could invite others to join, and this girl was an envoy of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. No wonder she knew Elder Shao the Supreme Elder. No wonder her grandfather was someone even Elder Shao the Supreme Elder would treat with great caution. She indeed had such a powerful background to be an envoy even within the number 1 great sect of the central region, the Heavenly Sacred Palace. And then there was the first holy temple. Those who knew of the Heavenly Sacred Palace were even more aware of the first holy temple, which was the most precious place of cultivation within the entire Heavenly Sacred Palace, second only to the Heavenly Saint Mountain, where the Heavenly Saints resided, and it could even be said to be a place where only the most exceptional geniuses below the Heavenly Saint realm could enter. Elder Shao Supreme Elder was the Vice Hall Master of the First Holy Temple. This girl actually invited this young man to join the First Holy Temple. It is said that joining the First Holy Temple requires a recommendation from a Heavenly Saint, so she came to see Elder Shao Supreme Elder in order to have him recommend this young man to join the First Holy Temple. Looking at Yi Chun, the countless warriors of the Taiye sword sect envied him greatly. The Heavenly Sacred Palace, the First Holy Temple. This place, legendary among countless cultivators within the 3 great dynasties of the central region, was now within the reach of this youth before them. Then they thought of the second matter mentioned by the girl, the divine artifact, Fallen Sword. As disciples of the Taiye sword sect, they knew exactly what it was. The divine artifact, Fallen Sword. A place where even many talented sword cultivators of their Taiye sword sect did not have the privilege to cultivate within, and this girl was actually requesting Elder Shao Supreme Elder's help to allow this young man to cultivate inside the divine artifact, Fallen Sword. This was truly another great opportunity, in addition to joining the first holy temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. In the end, all the disciples of the Taiye sword sect turned their gazes to Elder Shao Supreme Elder in the void, to see if he would agree to the girl's request. If Elder Shao Supreme Elder agreed to these 2 requests, then this youth named Yi Chun would be able to join the first holy temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace and also enter the divine artifact, Fallen Sword, to cultivate. They would be incredibly envious of such fortune bestowed upon this warrior. Yi Chun also looked toward Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Although he did not know what Mu Qingqing meant by the divine artifact, Fallen Sword, the mere mention of the term divine artifact left him astonished. He had long heard from Mu Qingqing that she would create an opportunity for him to cultivate a high-level sword formation within the Taiye sword sect, but he hadn't expected this cultivation opportunity to be related to a divine artifact. And the matter of Elder Shao Supreme Elder's recommendation mattered even more to Yi Chun. He wished to go to the first holy temple, and if Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded, then there would be no problem, and he would truly become a disciple of the heavenly sacred palace. Thinking of this, even though Elder Shao Supreme Elder's eyes seemed to contain endless voids within them, so terrifying that even one's mind and spirit could be affected, Yi-chan stared back at Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Because Yi-chan knew, after Elder Shao Supreme Elder heard these two requests, he would surely scrutinize him. If he lacked the courage to even lift his head, then Elder Shao Supreme Elder would surely think less of him and would not agree to these requests. Boom! As Yi-chan had anticipated, when Mu Qingqing put forward the two requests, while countless warriors of the Taiye sword sect were taken aback, Elder Shao Supreme Elder in the void, his eyes blazing like divine lightning, began to scrutinize Yi-chan with full attention. Previously, when Elder Shao Supreme Elder had casually glanced at Yi-chan, it made him feel as if his entire being was transparent. Now, under the full attention of Elder Shao Supreme Elder, Yi-chan felt as if his entire spirit, and even all his sword intents, began to surge wildly. In that instant, from the moment he stepped onto the path of the sword, starting from his first set of sword skills, torrential rain sword skills, to his comprehension of storm rain sword intent, then to exchanging insights with Zhang Yao at 10,000 Swords Mountain and learning purple lightning sword intent, as well as wind sword intent and sword intent of thunder taught by the owner of Thousand Lotus Cave Abode, Heavenly Saint Qianji, and finally acquiring the 8 great sword formations from his senior sister. All of Yi Chen's sword intents and techniques burst forth like endless raging winds, wildly flailing under the gaze of Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Elder Shao Supreme Elder seemed to see the endless path of Yi Chen's swordsmanship, and his eyes grew brighter and brighter. Even more so by the end, when Elder Shao Supreme Elder's scrutiny reached the spot between Yi Chen's eyebrows, the sword palace acupoint within, the liquid from the sword qi began to surge violently, and even the flying sword Qi Hua began to move at great speed within the sword palace acupoint. At this moment, Elder Shao Supreme Elder, who had been scrutinizing Yi-chan the whole time, had his eyes shining even more brilliantly. Although he only had a vague sense of the power of the flying sword Qi Hua, and couldn't truly see the flying sword Qi Hua hidden within Yi Chen's sword palace acupoint. In that instant, Elder Shao Supreme Elder felt a sword-killing power that even he was taken aback by, as well as a type of sword Qi that was all too familiar to him. It's actually Taiye sword Qi, and you have also acquired a tremendously powerful flying sword. In the end, even Elder Shao Supreme Elder couldn't help but utter a shocked praise. His scrutiny of Yi-chan was a powerful and unparalleled divine consciousness examination, imperceptible to others. But Yi-chan knew that in that instant, Elder Shao Supreme Elder had almost come into contact with the flying sword Qi Hua hidden within his sword palace acupoint, a secret unknown to everyone else. Such terror from a mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse, to be able to probe into the sword palace acupoint. If it weren't for the fact that the flying sword Qi Hua came from the Heavenly God Palace within the Chaotic Sea area, an exceedingly precious top-grade divine artifact, he would likely have been directly seen by Elder Shao Supreme Elder. As for the Taiye sword Qi mentioned by Elder Shao Supreme Elder, Yi-chan nodded his head in acknowledgement. It was indeed Taiye sword Qi. The Taiye sword Qi he had incorporated into his sword palace acupoint was collected from the Taiye sword forest of the Taiye sword sect by Heavenly Saint Lian Yu in those years, and both Heavenly Saint Lian Yu and Heavenly Saint Qianji were disciples of this Taiye sword sect. This secret Elder Shao Supreme Elder had actually discovered directly. Hearing that Yi-chan also had flying sword skills, Mu Qingqing's eyes lit up even more, and Yi-chan, facing Elder Shao Supreme Elder's exclamation about the Taiye sword Qi, no longer hesitated and revealed how he obtained the Taiye sword Qi from the Thousand Lotus Cave Abode. To think it's related to Qianji and Lian Yu. When Elder Shao Supreme Elder heard about Yi-chen's connection to Heavenly Saint Qianji and Heavenly Saint Lian Yu, and that Heavenly Saint Qianji had gone to the minor spirit realm and Heavenly Saint Lian Yu had been injured, his hair, floating like sword Qi, began to tremble wildly. Qianji and Lian Yu were disciples I personally took under my wing. Later, they said they wanted to venture into the Chaotic Sea area, and I haven't seen them for hundreds of years. I never expected such a significant incident to have occurred. Elder Shao Supreme Elder shared a shocking secret. Heavenly Saint Qianji and Heavenly Saint Lian Yu were actually his disciples. This greatly astonished Yi Chun and the rest of the Taiye sword sect martial artists, upon hearing the names of Heavenly Saint Qianji and Heavenly Saint Lian Yu, also cried out in shock. These two names were highly reputable in the Taiye sword sect, having disappeared for hundreds of years. Unexpectedly, they were related to the youth before them, and Mu Qingqing, although unaware of the matters concerning Heavenly Saint Qianji and Heavenly Saint Lian Yu, saw that Yi Chun was still hiding secrets associated with the Taiye sword sect even under the scrutiny of Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Yi Chun actually had a connection with both of Elder Shao Supreme Elder's disciples. This made Mu Qingqing even happier. Yi Chun truly has great destiny to have such a connection with Elder Shao as well. With this, Elder Shao Supreme Elder would be even more inclined to agree to the two requests she had made earlier. Indeed, after scrutinizing Yi Chun, Elder Shao Supreme Elder, who was already greatly impressed by Yi Chen's achievements on the path of the sword, discovered Yi Chen's flying sword secret, the Taiye sword chi, and even the affairs of Heavenly Saint Qianji and Heavenly Saint Lian Yu. When he looked at Yi Chun again, his eyes held an inexplicable sense of esteem. Finally, Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded towards Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing. All right, I agree to your two requests. Yi Chun, at such a young age, to possess such combat power, able to overpower someone in the middle phase of the elixir rotating stage while only in the middle phase of the spiritual C stage, and to achieve so much in the way of sword intent without specializing in sword techniques, of course, I will strongly recommend you to join the first holy temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Moreover, you have a connection with Qianji and Lian Yu, which means you also have a destined connection with our Taiye sword sect. Given that, I will comply with the young lady's request, make an exception, and allow you to cultivate inside the divine artifact, Fallen Sword. Let us go. I will take you to see the Fallen Sword right now, Elder Shao Supreme Elder said to Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing. Upon hearing Elder Shao Supreme Elder's agreement, both Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing's expressions brightened. Thank you, Elder Shao. Thank you, Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Mu Qingqing and Yi Chun both expressed their gratitude to Elder Shao Supreme Elder simultaneously. Boom! Having agreed to both requests of Mu Qingqing and Yi Chun, Elder Shao Supreme Elder did not stay in the void outside the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion any longer. His gaze swept across the Taiye sword sect disciples nearby, but he did not speak. All of the Taiye sword sect disciples were clearly frightened and did not dare to raise their heads. Subsequently, Elder Shao Supreme Elder waved his long sleeve towards Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing, and they immediately rose from the ground. Then, tearing through the void, he led Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing into a spatial rift, vanishing from the sky in an instant. The martial artists from the Taiye sword sect outside the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion only dared to raise their heads after they were gone. Seeing Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing being taken away by Elder Shao Supreme Elder, and thinking back to the matters concerning the Heavenly Sacred Palace and the divine artifact, Fallen Sword, they mentioned earlier, a wave of unstoppable discussion immediately swept through all the martial artists. Amidst these discussions, Yi Chun and Mu Qingqing, at this moment, had already been led by Elder Shao Supreme Elder into the Taiye sword sect, to an endless expanse of mountain peaks. Could that be the divine artifact, Fallen Sword? Standing atop a peak, Yi Chun looked ahead and was shocked to see a colossal sword piercing the earth not far in front of the mountain. This sword was a staggering 10,000 meters tall, with the tip thrust into the ground, and even its scabbard was hidden within the clouds of the void. Looking further at the sword's body, one could vaguely see cracks along the giant 10,000-meter sword, indicating it was damaged, and the undamaged parts of the sword body were carved with numerous strange patterns which, in the void, emitted endless sword radiance. The entire 10,000-meter tall giant sword, whether it was the tip embedded in the ground, the damaged sword body, or the scabbard nestled in the clouds of the void, was surrounded by a terrifying red aura. Even from a distance, Yi Chun could feel the red aura attacking his mind, and a fearsome sound of battle immediately surged through his consciousness. As Yi Chun examined the colossal sword, Mu Qingqing, standing beside him, had her beautiful eyes shining brightly, and Elder Shao Supreme Elder, also beside him, finally spoke. This is the divine artifact, Fallen Sword. A broken divine sword that has fallen from the higher realms. Chapter 294 Sword Inner World. This is the divine artifact, the Fallen Sword. A broken divine sword that fell from the upper realm. The words of Elder Shao Supreme Elder resounded in Yi Chen's ears, echoing over the endless peaks of the mountains. Yi Chen turned to look over the peaks at the mountains outside, where he could glimpse the gates, palaces, caves, and countless towers of the Taiye sword sect, then turned back to gaze upon the sky-supporting giant sword. Yi Chen could never have imagined that such a massive sword, 10,000 meters tall, could be hidden in a valley behind the mountains where the gates of the Taiye sword sect were. Fallen from the upper realm? Yi Chen was even more astonished by Elder Shao Supreme Elder's words. The upper realm was the minor spirit realm. Could this giant sword have fallen from the minor spirit realm? Divine swords. In the minor spirit realm, where the void sky true God existed, there indeed were swords of the divine artifacts that were even more powerful than sacred artifacts. As Yi Chen was reeling from the shock, Mu Qingqing also spoke out to him. Yi Chen, this divine sword fell from the upper realm over 3,000 years ago. Back then, countless masters from our heavenly sacred palace specifically came to this back mountain to investigate. I heard from my grandfather that this divine sword is even stained with divine blood. It's very likely that it fell from the upper realm due to some divine battle up there, and its broken condition could also be due to that divine battle. The terrifying red malevolent aura that coils around the blade. It is said to be the divine blood that stained the sword. When the divine sword first fell over 3,000 years ago, even my grandfather and the others didn't dare get close to it. It's been thousands of years, and that malevolent aura hasn't dissipated yet. Mu Qingqing's words gave Yi Chen an even greater shock. More than 3,000 years ago. Divine battle. Divine blood. Suddenly, Yi Chen thought of something. Wasn't it more than 3,000 years ago when the divine Phoenix clan of the upper realm was in the midst of a fierce battle with the other two ancient clans? The Vermilion Bird clan and the Flying Spirit clan? The Azure Blue Mansion was brought down from the upper realm by Heavenly Saint Moya just over 3,000 years ago. Could this divine sword be related to the battle with the divine Phoenix clan? Yi Chen hurriedly communicated with his Phoenix spirit through divine sense. However, the divine sense of the Phoenix spirit couldn't leave the Azure Blue Mansion too far, and thus could not detect the aura of that divine sword. So the Phoenix spirit did not know whether the sword was related to the divine Phoenix clan. While Yi Chen was pondering the rumors of the divine sword and the battle involving the divine Phoenix clan, Elder Shao Supreme Elder continued to speak as he looked at the divine sword. The name of this divine sword is unknown, as it fell from the void. We've simply named it the Fallen Sword. But it definitely reaches the quality of a divine artifact. Even though it is damaged, it is absolutely a divine artifact. Divine artifact. The words of Elder Shao Supreme Elder made Yi Chen cease his communication with the Phoenix spirit and attentively listen. Yi Chen himself possessed a divine artifact, one that even Elder Shao Supreme Elder had just failed to detect, which harbored the primordial star scripture, the Starlight Tower. However, the Starlight Tower, left behind by the ZG Star Lord, gave Yi Chen the intuition that this divine sword had truly fallen from the minor spirit realm, but even if it were undamaged, it would definitely not surpass the Starlight Tower he possessed. Yi Chen felt that his Starlight Tower was an existence that surpassed the realms like the minor spirit realm. Forget about the artifacts of a void sky true god. Even the artifacts of a much stronger space-time god king would probably not be stronger than his Starlight Tower. However, Yi Chen had only just reached the second level of the Starlight Tower and had only obtained the second chapter of the primordial star scripture, so his understanding of the Starlight Tower was still limited. He couldn't draw too much information from it in comparison with this divine sword. Besides the Starlight Tower, Yi Chen had also come into contact with another item related to the Void Sky True God, which was the ancient God Tower in the Ancestral Land's secret realm that possessed the wonderful time flow rate. The ancient God Tower was forged by the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, one of the 8 ancient clans of the upper realm, and a significant figure even among Void Sky True Gods. Thus, Yi Chen was not too unfamiliar with divine artifacts. While Yi Chen listened intently, Elder Shao Supreme Elder went on to say, when this divine sword fell all those years ago, the three palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace. At this point, Elder Shao Supreme Elder glanced at Mu Qingqing, used top-quality sacred artifacts to test the divine sword, only to find that even such sacred artifacts couldn't leave the slightest sword mark on its blade. The three palace masters had once seen the void sky true god in the upper realm. They guessed that after its fall, the sword revealed its true form. When divine artifacts are forged, their true form is incomparably huge, and they can transform and shrink for use in real combat. However, this true form reveals all the mysteries of a divine artifact. The true form of this divine sword just happens to be a 10,000-meter-tall sky-supporting giant sword. Unfortunately, there is no void sky true god on the entire barbaric wilderness continent, so it's impossible for us to use this divine sword. Even the three palace masters, with their pinnacle cultivation in the late heavenly saint realm, couldn't move the sword by a hair, so it simply remains here, in the valley behind the mountains of the Tai sword sect. Yichen nodded in understanding. Although he didn't know if the ancient god tower was a divine artifact, it was specifically sent to the 33 continents by the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, and since its prohibitions were unlocked, Heavenly Saint Dekong was able to carry and use it. But this divine sword had obviously fallen by itself. With the prohibitions not being unlocked, it was understandable that the barbaric wilderness continent's mightiest couldn't do anything about it. A divine sword lies here, yet it cannot be used. It's not just the three palace masters, but us cultivators from Tai sword sect are also very dissatisfied. Hence, many heavenly saints, especially sword cultivator heavenly saints, have started to research this divine sword. Persistence pays off, and as a result, we discovered a great opportunity. That is, this divine sword is damaged, and there are gaps on the blade of the divine sword. Originally, the aura of divine blood and evil was too strong for us to dare to approach and investigate. But as hundreds and thousands of years passed, the aura on it weakened, and we were able to remain beside the divine sword for longer periods of time. Later on, we even successfully entered the damaged part of the divine sword blade. As he reached this point, Elder Shao Supreme Elder's gaze also turned towards Yichen. Yichen's mind and spirit were stirred. If one could enter the blade of the divine sword, that likely had something to do with his upcoming cultivation inside this divine sword. Yichen also listened attentively. Seeing that Yichen understood his meaning, Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded approvingly. Once we entered the blade of this divine sword, we discovered that it truly was a divine artifact, for its blade contained a world of its own. A 10,000-meter-tall divine sword in its true form. From the outside, it's evident how vast its blade is. But upon entering, we found that the inner space of the blade was even larger than it appeared from the outside, hiding countless prohibited formation arrays. These prohibited formation arrays were likely forged by the great power that originally refined this divine sword, specifically to enhance the might of the divine sword. About a dozen of U.S. heavenly saints battled our way up these prohibited formation arrays from below, but in the end, we only managed to challenge 38 of them. The ones above were simply beyond our ability to tackle, even for late-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouses. Over these thousands of years, we have been continuously studying the 38 prohibited formation arrays we could access, and gradually, we have come to understand them more and more deeply. These prohibited formation arrays are all marvelous, but one of the most important features is the time flow rate. Only a void sky true god who has started to comprehend the laws of time would be able to refine it. The time flow rate. Time flow rate? Yichen's heart trembled. He had encountered a change in the time flow rate in the ancient god tower, and now within this divine sword as well. He only heard Elder Shao Supreme Elder continue. We discovered that once inside the divine sword blade, due to the prohibitions, the entire time flow rate changed. If we stayed inside for 10 days, only one day would pass outside. The time flow rate inside the divine sword is actually 10 to 1 compared to the outside. This revelation made us heavenly saints ecstatic. With a 10 to 1 time flow rate, the amount of cultivation we could do inside this divine sword would be 10 times more than outside. Yi Chun smiled to himself. When he first encountered the time flow rate in the ancient god tower, he, like Elder Shao Supreme Elder and the others, was delighted. However, the time flow rate had its limits, staying too long would cause severe backlash, and he had only stayed there for 540 days, which was actually only 54 days outside. I wonder how long one can stay inside this divine sword? Yi Chun thought to himself. The following words from Elder Shao Supreme Elder gave Yi Chun his answer. After discovering the secret of the time flow rate, of course, we wanted to cultivate more within the divine sword. Eventually, after cultivating for 300 days, which was 30 days outside, we were ejected out, and the next time we entered, the marvelous effect of the time flow rate had disappeared from us. The laws of time are indeed wondrous and extraordinary. Later, we used many disciples to experiment and ultimately found that the time one can spend inside the divine sword is related to their realm. Disciples in the true Qi realm can only stay for 10 days, those in the spirit Sea realm for 30 days, rotating pill realm disciples for 100 days, and we heavenly saints for 300 days. Yi Chun, as you are in the spirit Sea realm, when you enter this divine sword to cultivate, you can stay inside for 30 days while only 3 days will pass outside. This is the first marvelous benefit that the divine sword can offer you, Elder Shao Supreme Elder said to Yi Chun. At this moment, Mu Qingqing also giggled at Yi Chun. Yi Chun, I've cultivated inside as well. Back then, I stayed for 30 days. Yi Chun nodded with a smile. Being able to cultivate for an additional 27 days inside this divine sword may not compare to the ancient god tower, but it was still not bad. Yi Chun knew that this divine sword wasn't like the ancient god tower, which relied on time flow rate for cultivation. The divine sword was innately a combat artifact, and the time flow rate was just a subsidiary effect of its combat prohibitions. Having such a benefit was already good enough. There must be other wonderful uses hidden within so many prohibitions. Indeed, Elder Shao then said to Yi Chun, besides the time flow rate, the greater function of this divine sword lies in those prohibited formation arrays. Yi Chun, we heavenly saints can enter up to 38 prohibited formation arrays, but with your realm you can only enter the bottom 8 prohibited formation arrays. I will not tell you the functions of the other arrays. These 8 prohibited formation arrays, there are those that can help you comprehend sword intent and sword formations, those that can aid you in cultivating true Qi, and even a few related to trials. When you enter the divine sword, you will be able to encounter each of these in turn. Chapter 295. Sea of Evil Qi Blood Ignition Fruit. The prohibited formation array was specifically refined to enhance the might of divine artifacts. The purpose of each prohibition differs, and naturally, the form of the prohibited formation arrays is diverse as well. Listening to the words of Elder Shao Supreme Elder, and then gazing at the colossal sword body towering 10,000 meters high, dwarfing giant mountains, Yi Chun took a deep breath. The divine sword, a sword among divine artifacts. Simply the prohibitions inside this divine artifact's sword body required heavenly saints to fly into them to explore, and even they could not completely traverse it. Countless prohibited formation arrays only allow late-stage heavenly saint realm experts to break through the 38 formations at the very bottom. At this thought, Yi Chun felt his mind surge with excitement. One day, when he could step into the realm of the void sky true God, just the mention of a single weapon would enthrall countless individuals in the heavenly saint realm, some even venturing inside for hundreds or thousands of years. That sensation was truly the feeling of a mighty being. With his mind greatly stirred, Yi Chun could no longer resist the urge to fly into the divine artifact's sword and witness the wondrous prohibited formation arrays refined by the void sky true God. Seizing every opportunity to cultivate and continuously strengthen his power, his entry into the realm of the void sky true God would be even more likely. Seeing Yi Chun's eager gaze, Elder Shao Supreme Elder smiled. Yi Chun, I will engrave the details about those prohibited formation arrays onto a divine sense law plaque for you to understand them more thoroughly, he said. Additionally, because you are in the spirit sea realm, you can only cultivate inside for 30 days worth of time dilatation before being rejected from it. And once your opportunity for time dilatation is exhausted, even if you advance to the rotating pill realm and re-enter the divine sword, you will no longer have the chance for time dilatation. Do you plan to finish cultivating the 30 days of time dilatation in one go? Or would you like to save some opportunity for time dilatation and wait to cultivate it after you've advanced to the rotating pill realm? After all, you could cultivate for 100 days worth of time in the rotating pill realm. If you want to split your cultivation, I can give you another chance to enter the divine sword after you reach the rotating pill realm, he offered. After thinking for a moment, Yi-chun responded, I'll just cultivate the entire 30 days of time dilatation at once. Cultivating for 30 days would only account for 3 days outside, giving Yi-chun an extra 27 days of cultivation time. Although that was 27 days less than the 100 days available in the rotating pill realm, Yi-chun didn't wish to split the opportunity. After all, the main feature of this divine artifact sword was its offensive capability. The time dilatation offered in the Heavenly Saint realm was only 300 days, which wasn't even better than the opportunity Yi-chun had received in the ancient God Tower. Yi-chun's purpose in entering the divine sword was to challenge the prohibited formation arrays inside to enhance his combat abilities. The chance for time dilatation was secondary to that. Instead of waiting to use this opportunity when in the rotating pill realm for a slightly longer period of time dilatation, it was better to fully commit to cultivating now to improve his strength thoroughly. Yi-chun was about to join the first holy temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, a place with numerous top geniuses from across the barbaric wilderness continent, and he would also have to face the imminent war between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness. Whether competing with the infinite geniuses of the First Holy Temple or contributing in the war between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness, Yi-chun needed to quickly increase his strength to an even more formidable level. Of course, he cherished each opportunity to enhance his abilities, instead of postponing it for later. Hearing Yi-chun's decision, Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded his head. Mu Qingqing, who was standing by, smiled and said, Yi-chun, I thought the same as you. When I first entered this divine sword, I too completed 30 days of cultivation all at once. I didn't want to keep a few days for later when I reached the rotating pill realm. If there were several more years' worth of time dilatation available, I might consider waiting, but having only a few extra dozens of days in the rotating pill realm compared to the spirit sea realm is too short and not worth the wait. After all, strengthening my power now means I possess the power immediately. Maybe this boost in power will bring me greater opportunities than cultivating in the space inside the divine sword in the future. Our opportunities are not limited to this divine artifact's sword. Across the barbaric wilderness continent and even on the other 32 continents, there are countless opportunities. Only with great strength can we seize more chances. As she concluded, Mu Qingqing winked slyly at Yi-chun and offered a playful smile. Hearing Mu Qingqing's words, Yi-chun nodded as well. The girl indeed was quite astute and full of ideas. All right, Yi-chun, since you've decided to complete the 30 days of time dilatation in one go, spend these 30 days cultivating well inside the divine sword. We will wait for you outside for just 3 days, Elder Shao Supreme Elder told Yi-chun, as a law plaque flew directly towards Yi-chun from his hand. This contains detailed information about the 8 prohibited formation arrays you can challenge. Take a good look before you enter the divine sword. Yi-chun took the law plaque and held it to his head, closing his eyes to sense its content with his divine sense. The lowest prohibited formation array is the 18 wind beads formation, which the powerful being who refined the divine sword likely used to enhance its wind-based attack power. We can utilize this formation to comprehend the essence of wind and also cultivate our bodies and speed. The second prohibited formation array below is the Heavenly Thunder formation, which provides the divine sword with supreme heavenly thunder attacks. Upon entering, besides understanding the essence and cultivating like with the 18 wind beads formation, we can also refine our souls with the heavenly thunder. The third prohibited formation array. As Yi-chun's divine sense swept out in no time at all, he had scrutinized the condition of the 8 prohibited formation arrays. After looking, Yi-chun couldn't help but nod in admiration. These formation arrays, crafted by the great being who refined the divine sword, served to enhance the might of the divine sword. The ingenuity of these arrays filled Yi-chun with wonder. The methods to cultivate with the help of these prohibited formation arrays, summarized by the heavenly saints who had braved them, were also ingenious, earning Yi-chun's endless admiration. Having seen Yi-chun finish inspecting the prohibited formation arrays, Elder Shao Supreme Elder glanced at Yichun and then at Mu Qingqing by his side, before speaking, "Let's go, Yichun. I'll take you to the place of the divine sword. Qing girl, you come with me to have a look as well." "Thank you, senior." Yichun bowed in thanks to Elder Shao Supreme Elder. Mu Qingqing also giggled with a smile. "It's been a long time since I've visited the divine sword. Yichun, I will wait with Elder Shao outside for 3 days. Make sure you take advantage of the 30-fold time flow inside to bravely challenge those prohibited formation arrays." "All right. I will definitely seize this opportunity to enhance my strength before heading to the heavenly sacred palace." Yichun smiled and nodded at Mu Qingqing. As the two spoke, Elder Shao Supreme Elder didn't delay any longer. With a sweep of his large sleeve, he set off towards the location of the divine sword, taking both Yichun and Mu Qingqing with him. Standing atop the mountain peak and seeing that the divine sword was close, it was only during flight that Yichun realized the divine sword was still some distance away. After traversing dozens of miles of mountain valleys, Yichun finally arrived at the domain of the divine sword and saw the intricate patterns on its sword body clearly. The red sea of evil qi enveloping the entire sword body of the divine sword was even more startling to Yichun. From atop the mountain, the impact of the sea of evil qi was so fierce that Yichun felt as if endless cries of slaughter were surging in his mind. Now that he had truly stepped into the domain of the divine sword, Yichun felt that the sea of evil qi cloaking the sword body had completely formed into a blood-red sea thousands of feet in circumference, with endless clouds of evil qi rolling and roaring within. At the same time, thunderous sounds of battle resonated within Yichun's mind, like roaring thunder. If it weren't for Yichun's sufficiently powerful divine sense, perhaps the mere sound of this evil qi would have knocked him out. This was the sea of evil qi formed by the divine blood once tainted by the divine sword. Having endured for thousands of years, the fact that the sea of evil qi still remained so intense made Yichun realize how terrifying it must have been when the divine sword first fell. No wonder Elder Shao Supreme Elder said that at the time, even late-stage heavenly saint realm existences dared not approach it. The might of divine blood, the might of the void sky true God, just the divine blood alone was this terrifying. Yichun, get used to this sea of evil qi. In a moment, we will fly down into the midst of the sea of evil qi below the divine sword. Elder Shao Supreme Elder spoke to Yichun as they flew towards the divine sword. Elder Shao Supreme Elder had already protected Mu Qingqing, but he did not shield Yichun. Instead, he allowed Yichun to adapt to this terrifying sea of evil qi. After all, if Yichun was to challenge the inside of the divine sword, he couldn't always rely on others for protection. Yichun nodded, without using his true energy to block the assault of the sea of evil qi, but instead biting down and adapting to this terrifying sea of evil qi. Sensing the 1,000-year-old remnants of divine blood, feeling the ever-closer residual might of the divine sword. Just as Yichun, Elder Shao Supreme Elder, and Mu Qingqing flew into the rolling red sea of evil qi below the divine sword, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dozens of figures flew towards the trio from within the sea of evil qi. Upon seeing Elder Shao Supreme Elder, all of these figures halted in the void and bowed to him. Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded at these people and then began to explain to Yichun. These are the protector sword disciples of the Tai sword sect, responsible for guarding the divine sword. Although no one can move the divine sword, without our sect's permission, others cannot come close to it. Yichun nodded and looked at these people. He saw that all of these dozens of people were in the rotating pill realm, but each of their auras was terrifyingly powerful. Yichun even felt that despite his ability to fight late-stage rotating pill realm warriors, he probably couldn't handle them. Warriors who could stay in the sea of evil qi all year round are indeed extraordinary. Then, Elder Shao Supreme Elder looked towards the leader among these people and said, "Lu Jia, how many are currently cultivating inside the divine sword?" The leader, a sword-bearing youth in brown clothing, responded upon hearing Elder Shao Supreme Elder's question. Reporting to the Supreme Elder, currently there are 35 disciples challenging the prohibited formation arrays inside the divine sword. In the sea of evil qi below, there are 13 disciples preparing to enter the divine sword, bombarding the blood ignition fruit in preparation. 48 people, that's quite a few. Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded. Lu Jia, this is Yi Chun. He will also be entering the Divine Sword for cultivation this time. Take him down below to bombard the Blood Ignition Fruit as well. Elder Shao Supreme Elder introduced Yi Chun to the leader, Lu Jia.
Ye-chan.
Lu Jia's eyes directly turned towards Yi Chun, a youth personally brought by the most powerful Elder Shao Supreme Elder of the entire Tai Sword sect. This made Lu Jia regard him as extremely significant. Yi Chun smiled back at Lu Jia. However, Yi Chun was thinking, Lu Jia said that there are 13 disciples preparing to enter the Divine Sword, bombarding the Blood Ignition Fruit. Elder Shao Supreme Elder also has Lu Jia take me to bombard the Blood Ignition Fruit. So what exactly is this Blood Ignition Fruit? Why do they have to bombard the Blood Ignition Fruit before entering the Divine Sword? Yi Chen's gaze turned towards the rolling red sea of evil qi below, curious to see what the Blood Ignition Fruit actually looked like. Chapter 296, The Surprised Lu Jia. Upon looking, he could see nothing at all. The rolling sea of malevolent qi surrounding the Divine Sword blade not only obstructed the view, but even Divine Sense could only penetrate a small part of it. Yi Chen's Divine Sense reached down about a dozen meters before it could no longer penetrate any further. Seeing Yi Chun looking down, Lu Jia smiled and said, Yi Chun, you want to see the Blood Ignition Fruit, don't you? That Blood Ignition Fruit grows on the ground far below and can't be seen from up here. Come, I shall take you down to the very bottom and explain how to strike the Blood Ignition Fruit, preparing you to enter the Divine Sword. As he spoke, Lu Jia began to lead the way in front. Yi Chun glanced at Elder Shao Supreme Elder and Mu Qingqing, and after seeing them nod with a smile, he swiftly followed Lu Jia down. Finally, Elder Shao Supreme Elder and Mu Qingqing followed behind Lu Jia and Yi Chun, also flying downwards. As for the rest of the Protector Sword disciples, they vanished back into the sea of malevolent qi, taking up their guarding positions and continuing to protect the Divine Sword. Whoosh! 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 After flying downwards for about 1 to 2 kilometers, passing through 7 or 8 layers of malevolent qi, Yi Chun at last saw the ground below. He could see that a vast expanse of red malevolent qi below had been pushed far away, making the situation on the ground clearly visible. What Yi Chun first noticed was the Divine Sword's immense tip anchored into the earth, piercing the ground to create an enormous rift hundreds of meters long. The tip had disappeared into the rift, leaving only the giant blade above it. Looking around the blade, he could see within tens of thousands of meters from the blade, grand trees with a peculiar blend of silver and red hues grew, as if the colors of the blade and the malevolent qi were combined together. Within this area of tens of thousands of meters, there could be thousands of such grand trees. On these enormous trees grew long, arm-shaped fruits, each one resembling a clump of blazing flames, blood-red beyond compare. Upon seeing these fruits, Yi Chun understood at once. These must be the famed Blood Ignition Fruits that Elder Shao Supreme Elder and Lu Jia had mentioned. Just as Yi Chun was scrutinizing these Blood Ignition Fruits, many of these fiery red fruits abruptly fell from the trees and shot rapidly towards the far reaches of the grove, into the rolling sea of malevolent qi. The speed of these Blood Ignition Fruits ranged from fast to slow, yet even the slowest of them moved at speeds nearly that of late-stage Spirit Sea Realm experts, while the fastest reached the speed of late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts. This greatly surprised Yi Chun, for he had never seen fruits that could fly so fast. As Yi Chen's Divine Sense enveloped the area, he noticed that as the blood-igniting fruits shot towards the sea of malevolent qi, a dozen figures leaped up from the dense grove and from various directions, ferociously striking towards the blood-igniting fruits. Many failed to strike the Blood Ignition Fruits, and as those fruits burst into the malevolent qi, they exploded with a bang, completely eradicating a puff of malevolent qi. This caused Yi Chun to narrow his eyes. The Blood Ignition Fruit could actually annihilate malevolent qi. No wonder the malevolent qi at the very bottom was pushed so far out, gathering only outside the grove. It turned out that the Blood Ignition Fruits within the grove possessed such formidable power. Some, however, were successful in striking the Blood Ignition Fruits. The moment these fruits were hit by them, they exploded, turning into a faint blood-red glow that enveloped the hitters. Those who successfully struck the blood ignition fruits all revealed joyful smiles. So this is what it means to strike blood ignition fruits? Yi-chun looked at the smiles on their faces, then back at the blood ignition fruits that had flown into the malevolent chi, eliminating it. He began to understand the purpose of these blood ignition fruits. Presumably, the disciples of the Taie sword sect struck the blood ignition fruits to harness their unique ability to eradicate malevolent chi. Indeed, just as Yi-chun had guessed, Lu Jia, who was leading the way, pointed to the flying blood ignition fruits and the several figures striking them and said to Yi-chun, "Yi-chun, you see those disciples? They are striking the blood ignition fruits. These blood ignition fruits grow in the woods beside the divine sword blade and possess unique abilities. According to the heavenly saint lords, these blood ignition fruits are the very manifestation of the divine sword's might. When the divine sword fell from the sky and crashed into the earth, the divine blood left on the blade released an immense sea of malevolent chi, 1,000 times denser than what you see now. Later, the might of the divine sword itself fluctuated on the earth, causing these grand trees to grow slowly and bear these peculiar blood ignition fruits. These blood ignition fruits possess great power. They can ignite the divine blood's malevolent chi and devour it. It is because of these fruits that the sea of malevolent chi around the divine sword has weakened, allowing us to approach and enter the divine sword. Over these thousands of years, as more blood ignition fruits trees have grown and more malevolent chi has been eradicated, the malevolent chi below has been pushed far away, being replenished by the dense chi above, gradually diluting the upper layer too. It's feared that in a few more centuries, the terrifying sea of malevolent chi surrounding the divine sword will completely disappear, revealing the true form of the divine sword. Lu Jia's words left Yi-chun feeling deeply moved. He could envision the divine blood on the divine sword as belonging to a foe of the original owner of the sword. This fearsome divine blood, once it had contaminated the blade and fell to the barbaric wilderness continent, released a vast sea of malevolent chi that even heavenly saint realm experts couldn't approach. Fortunately, the divine sword itself possessed its own might, which created the blood ignition fruit, capable of countering the malevolent chi. Continuous cleansing of the malevolent chi allowed less and less of it to surround the divine sword, making it possible for people to approach it and ultimately enter it. One could say that without these blood-igniting fruits, if the malevolent energy did not disperse and perish, I'm afraid no one would have had the opportunity to enter the divine sword and see the inner world of the divine sword. While Yi-chun was reflecting, Lu Jia continued, "These blood-igniting fruits have a significant role in eradicating malevolent energy, and it is for this reason that we bombard the blood-igniting fruits. After the divine sword was damaged, quite a bit of divine blood also seeped into the divine sword, and the interior of the divine sword is likewise rife with rolling malevolent energy. Only with the help of blood-igniting fruits, letting the light of the blood-igniting fruits cover oneself, can one remain unaffected by malevolent energy after entering the divine sword and dedicate oneself to cultivation within the divine sword. Over the years, the heavenly saint lords have concluded that bombarding 100 blood-igniting fruits will grant enough light of the blood-igniting fruits to protect oneself and ensure that one is not affected by malevolent energy after entering the divine sword. Outside the divine sword, there are currently over 3,000 blood-igniting fruit trees, with hundreds of thousands of blood-igniting fruits. We need to ensure both the growth of the blood-igniting fruits and the eradication of malevolent energy at a suitable pace, as well as allow disciples to bombard the blood-igniting fruits to cultivate inside the divine sword, which is why we stipulate the number of disciples who can enter the divine sword and open it only once every so often." Yi-chun nodded his head. The blood-igniting fruits had such a marvelous use. Of course, many people desired to use the light of the blood-igniting fruits to enter the divine sword for cultivation. But if the bombardment of blood-igniting fruits was too great, even surpassing their rate of growth, then problems would arise, not only failing to eradicate malevolent energy, but also likely causing the malevolent energy to roll back again. That would be draining the pond to get all the fish. The experts of Taiye sword sect would certainly not let such a thing happen and would naturally regulate the number of people bombarding blood-igniting fruits and the number of people entering the divine sword. Yi Chun. The divine sword has only recently been opened, and a new batch of blood-igniting fruits has grown enough for bombardment. Currently, inside the divine sword, 35 disciples have bombarded 100 blood-igniting fruits and have successfully entered the divine sword for cultivation. Another 13 people are bombarding blood-igniting fruits. Now, you should also hurry to bombard blood-igniting fruits. The faster you bombard 100 fruits, the quicker you can enter the divine sword for cultivation. Lu Jia said to Yi Chun with a smile. At the same time, Lu Jia also reminded Yi Chun. These blood-igniting fruits burst forth at varying speeds, and even the fruits from the same tree have different velocities. Even for practitioners in the later stages of the Dan rotation, it takes a long time to bombard 100 blood-igniting fruits. Yi Chun, considering your mid-spirit sea realm, it will be quite challenging to hit 100 blood-igniting fruits, so you must hurry up. The blood-igniting fruit trees to the far south, relatively speaking, have a slower projectile speed for the fruits, so you can go there to bombard blood-igniting fruits. As Yi Chun was brought by Elder Shao Supreme Elder, Lu Jia naturally wanted to give Yi Chun a good reminder, so he could enter the divine sword for cultivation more swiftly. Hearing Lu Jia's advice, Yi Chun smiled and nodded. However, he did not specifically head towards the southernmost blood-igniting fruit trees, but instead thanked Lu Jia, who had been explaining for quite a while, then gave Elder Shao Supreme Elder and Mu Qingqing, who were floating above and watching him, a nod before his sleeves swept up, and he directly burst toward the blood-igniting fruit tree below. Yi Chun did not make any particular choice, but simply selected the tree nearest him to begin bombarding the blood-igniting fruits. This surprised Lu Jia. What is Yi Chun doing? I reminded him that the blood-igniting fruits in the south are easier to capture. Why isn't he heading there? While Lu Jia was pondering this, just after Yi Chun had descended to the ground near a blood-igniting fruit, one of the fruits fell from the tree and erupted forth, shooting toward the rolling malevolent energy in the distance. The speed of this blood-igniting fruit's burst was astonishingly at the initial stage of the Dan rotation level. It was then that Lu Jia saw Yi Chun move. The mid-spirit sea realm Yi Chun directly chased after the erupting blood-igniting fruit, seemingly choosing to directly bombard this fruit. That's a blood-igniting fruit at the initial Duandan speed. How can Yi Chun at the mid-spirit sea realm catch up? Lu Jia hadn't finished speaking when his voice abruptly ceased, for he was suddenly struck by the realization that Yi Chun, who was chasing after the explosive fruit, had overtaken it, although he took off later, moving even faster than the blood-igniting fruit and instantly catching up with it. Whoosh! In barely a tenth of a blink, Yi Chun had swung out the black fire sword from behind him, the tip of the sword stabbing directly and bombarding the swiftly flying blood-igniting fruit. Bang! The blood-igniting fruit exploded instantly, a faint red light then lingering around Yi Chun. The first blood-igniting fruit hit. This! Such incredible speed! When Lu Jia heard the explosion of the blood-igniting fruit and saw the faint red light around Yi Chun, he could hardly believe his eyes. He had never seen such speed on a disciple at the Spirit Sea Realm. The speed was probably that of a Duandan practitioner. As Lu Jia was still in disbelief, another blood-igniting fruit fell from the tree and shot out. The speed of this blood-igniting fruit was even faster than the previous one, reaching the escaping speed at the late stage of the Dan rotation. To Lu Jia's increased astonishment, Yi Chun moved again, chasing after this second rapidly firing blood-igniting fruit. Yi Chun had chosen to bombard the blood-igniting fruit at the late Duandan escaping speed. Chapter 297 Real Monster. Watching Yi Chun's movements, Lu Jia had his mouth wide open. Previously, Yi Chun, in the Spirit Sea Realm midterm, achieved the speed of the Dun Pill level and struck a blood-igniting fruit with the starting speed of the Dun Pill level, which already made Lu Jia disbelieve. Now, Yi Chun was directly chasing after a blood-igniting fruit with the late speed of the Dun Pill level, which completely left Lu Jia stunned in place. Although Lu Jia had never seen it before, he had heard that there were disciples of exceptional talent in Taiye Sword Sect who could reach the early Dun Pill level speed while being in the midterm of the Spirit Sea Realm. But to say that someone in the midterm of the Spirit Sea realm could reach the late done pill level speed, even after Lu Jia had cultivated for hundreds of years in the Tai sword sect, he had never heard of any disciple capable of this, not even in rumors. Perhaps only the strongest among all the sects on the barbaric wilderness continent, the heavenly sacred palace, with its demon-level geniuses, could achieve such a feat. Could this young man, Yi Chen, really catch up with a blood-igniting fruit that flies at the late-done pill-level speed while he is just in the midterm of the Spirit Sea realm? Could he be another demon-level genius? Thinking this, Lu Jia's gaze was now entirely fixed on Yi Chen. Boom! Just as Lu Jia focused all his attention on Yi Chen, and while the fruit at the late-done pill-level speed burst forth, flying out of the grove toward the rolling evil aura outside, an odd, clear, and crisp sound suddenly emitted from Yi Chen's body. It was the cry of the vermilion bird divine beast Dharma idol phantom. Swoosh! Almost instantly, fiery true chi burst forth around Yi Chen's body, and the indescribably mysterious vermilion bird Dharma idol phantom enveloped his entire form. After that, Yi Chen, like a huge vermilion bird slicing through the void, suddenly pierced through space and appeared behind the rapidly fleeing blood-igniting fruit with late-done pill-level flying speed. Then, with a touch of the black fire sword in Yi Chen's hand, there was a bang, and the fruit, at its ultimate speed, exploded on impact. That explosion left Lu Jia, who had been watching Yi Chen attentively, completely thunderstruck. Yi Chen, the one he had previously reminded to strike the weakest area blood-igniting fruit, had actually succeeded in hitting one at the late-done pill-level speed. Yi Chen actually possessed the speed to overtake cultivators in the late-done pill level with just his midterm Spirit Sea realm cultivation. Yi Chen, just what kind of a demon are you from? Exclaimed Lu Jia. Lu Jia looked up at Elder Shao Supreme Elder, previously thinking he had brought a disciple who relied on connections to cultivate in the divine sword place. Now, it seemed nothing of the sort. This friend Yi Chen had completely surpassed all the Tai sword sect's Spirit Sea disciples. Even among the Tai sword sect's Dun Pill realm disciples, aside from the truly powerful in the later stages, there were probably only a few who could compare with him. And yet, Yi Chen was only in the midterm of the Spirit Sea realm. Lu Jia looked up at Elder Shao Supreme Elder, who also had a shock in his eyes. Previously, when Elder Shao was in Tai City, and he heard that Yi Chen had overpowered Lu Zhang in the mid-dun pill level, he knew that Yi Chen's strength was incredibly formidable, but that was only hearsay which paled in comparison to the shock of witnessing it with his own eyes. Yi Chen had taken action only twice, and he had already made Elder Shao Supreme Elder feel as if he was witnessing the genuine demon-level geniuses from the first holy temple of the heavenly sacred palace right before him. Moreover, the indescribably mysterious Dharma idol phantom around Yi Chen left Elder Shao Supreme Elder extremely astonished. Excellent, truly excellent. Ching-ching. You've really found a rare talent for the heavenly sacred palace. Elder Shao Supreme Elder's eyes sparkled as he looked at Yi Chen and nodded in admiration. Elder Shao, my judgment is never wrong. Mu Qingqing also proudly lifted her little head. Her beautiful eyes curved into smiles. The young girl even murmured to herself, Yi Chen's capabilities are not just limited to these. Even without cultivating in the heavenly sacred palace, he is this formidable. If he cultivates in the divine sword for another month, and then goes on to cultivate in the heavenly sacred palace, it's very likely he could surpass most of the demon-level geniuses from the first holy temple. Humph! Grandpa and the other envoys would be shocked to the core if they knew the kind of talent I picked for the heavenly sacred palace this time. The girl couldn't help but imagine the scenario when she would return to the heavenly sacred palace in a few months, her lips curling into a smile as she pondered. The second blood-igniting fruit. After striking another blood-igniting fruit and feeling another faint red aura envelop him, Yi Chen's eyes shone even brighter. Blood-igniting fruit. Strike 100 blood-igniting fruits quickly and enter the divine sword. Yi Chen didn't notice the amazed expressions of Lu Jia and Elder Shao Supreme Elder. His attention was entirely focused on the countless blood-igniting fruits. He wanted to quickly strike enough fruits to enter the divine sword. This gigantic sword that fell from the heavens, with divine blood merely touched to its body, had churned out a vast sea of evil aura, which even after thousands of years had not completely dissipated. The sword might emanating from this enormous sword formed the marvelously unique blood-igniting fruit tree and blood-igniting fruits, continuously annihilating the divine blood evil chi. Yi Chun could no longer restrain his desire to see what the inside of the divine sword looked like, what the forbidden formations within the divine sword were like. Of course, he wasn't going to waste too much time on the outside. Boom! Yi Chen's divine sense had already reached a coverage radius of 40 li, and he enveloped countless blood-igniting fruit trees and the fruits hanging from the branches within this range of his divine sense. He just waited for the blood-igniting fruits to fall, ready to strike immediately. Whoosh! Right after Yi Chen hit the second blood-igniting fruit, many more fruits began falling from the blood-igniting fruit grove, and Yi Chen immediately blasted towards the one closest to him. Bang! In the blink of an eye, another blood-igniting fruit, which had the speed of a late spirit sea realm retreat, was struck by Yi Chen. The third blood-igniting fruit hit. Then, without any pause in his movements, Yi Chen flitted through the blood-igniting fruit grove like a flying divine beast, hitting a fruit with every strike. Whether it was a blood-igniting fruit with the retreat speed of late spinning pill or the retreat speed of mid-spinning pill, not a single attack from Yi Chen missed its mark. In just a moment, Yi Chen had hit as many as 50 blood-igniting fruits. By the end, Lu Jia was completely numb to the spectacle. For other disciples, it would take a lot of time to hit enough blood-igniting fruits, but for him, Yi Chen, there was simply no difficulty at all. Lu Jia didn't even need to look to know that when Yi Chen had his sights on 100 blood-igniting fruits, that was when he would hit all 100. Yi Chen filled Lu Jia with confidence through his absolute strength. While Lu Jia's mind was still processing, the number of blood-igniting fruits hit by Yi Chen rose from 50 to as many as 60 or 70. In that moment, he hit more than 20 blood-igniting fruits again. Yi Chen's striking speed even caught the attention of the other 13 Taiye sword sect disciples who were hitting the blood-igniting fruits in the grove. Eventually, all 13 Taiye sword sect disciples even stopped their actions and turned to look at Yi Chen. When they saw that each of Yi Chen's strikes hit a blood-igniting fruit without fail, that none of the fruits he targeted could escape, like the first Holy Temple disciple Lu Jia, they all gaped in amazement. Their own pace at hitting the blood-igniting fruits was so slow, but this youth who seemed even younger than them was picking them off as easily as picking flowers, one sword strike per fruit. Comparing themselves to others, they simply couldn't compare. They were witnessing a demon-level genius right before their eyes. Under the astonished gazes of the 13 Taiye sword sect disciples and Lu Jia, under the nodding approval of Elder Shao Supreme Elder, and as Mu Qingqing's beautiful eyes sparkled with amazement while she watched Yi Chen. 98, 99, 100. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Yi Chen successfully hit all 100 required blood-igniting fruits in the grove outside the body of the divine sword. Hum! Hum! At this moment, 100 rays of blood-igniting fruit radiance twined around Yi Chen, ranging from his body all the way to the black fire sword in his hand. With the black fire sword in hand, its tip pointed downward, and under the reflection of the fiery red glow of the blood-igniting fruits, contrasted against the 10,000-meter tall towering sword behind him, Yi Chen emanated an odd temperament. This temperament caused Mu Qingqing, who had been watching Yi Chen all along, to be momentarily transfixed. 100. He hit all of them so quickly. This temperament made both Lu Jia and the 13 Taiye sword sect disciples unconsciously exclaim aloud. At that moment, Yi Chen finally turned his head, looking towards a gap at the very bottom of the divine sword's body. That gap was a place of damage on the sword's body, the lowest entry point into the internal space of the divine sword. The divine sword, a divine artifact sword that fell from the upper realm's minor spirit realm. I'll soon enter it for 30 days of cultivation. In these 30 days, I aim to use the forbidden formations inside to completely master my advanced sword formations. Once that's done, with my perfect mastery of the third layer of sword intents, I'll be ready to compete with sword cultivators from all over the world at the Spirit Sea Realm Sword Fighting Conference. As Yi Chen's eyes shone brilliantly, he also communicated with Phoenix Spirit of the Azure Blue Mansion through his divine sense. Phoenix Spirit Senior, I'm now close to this divine sword. Can you sense whether this divine sword is related to the Great War with the divine Phoenix clan from the Upper Realm? Chapter 298. The Voice Within the Divine Sword. This divine sword, with its blade damaged and stained with the divine blood of the Void Sky True God, had fallen from the minor spirit realm of the Upper Realm over 3,000 years ago. All of this coincided remarkably with the outbreak of the war between the three ancient clans, the Divine Phoenix clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and the Flying Spirit clan. Yi Chun naturally suspected that the divine sword had fallen from the Upper Realm due to the war between the three clans. Previously, Yi Chun and Feng Ling were too far from the divine sword, and Feng Ling couldn't sense its aura. Now that Yi Chun had reached the body of the divine sword, he naturally asked Feng Ling about the origins of the divine sword. This aura. Upon hearing Yi Chun's doubts, Feng Ling's divine consciousness spread out from Azure Blue Mansion, enveloping the blade and sensing its aura. It is indeed a divine artifact of a Void Sky True God, a weapon used by an existence of that level. However, as the sensing continued, Feng Ling's feathers shook gently. However, I am not familiar with this aura, and I do not sense the presence of the powerful beings of the Divine Phoenix, Vermilion Bird, and Flying Spirit clans on it. The divine blood stained on it does not seem to be that of the clan members of the three clans. Rather, it seems like it is. Feng Ling also seemed uncertain. Elder Feng Ling, it seems like what? Hearing that it was unrelated to the Divine Phoenix clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and the Flying Spirit clan, Yi Chun was somewhat surprised. He had initially thought that the divine sword was related to the war between the three clans and that he might learn more about the Divine Phoenix clan from it. Unexpectedly, there was no connection. But hearing the uncertainty in Feng Ling's voice also moved Yi Chun. Evidently, even if the divine sword had nothing to do with the war between the three clans, Feng Ling seemed to still know something from the divine blood stained on the blade. Instead of answering Yi Chun directly, Feng Ling said to Yi Chun, "Yi Chun, do you remember I told you that the strongest in the minor spirit realm of the Upper Realm were 6 ancient clans?"
Yi Chun nodded.
He had learned about the 6 great ancient clans of the Upper Realm back in the secret realm of the ancient God Tower in his ancestral land, and he was quite connected to the Yen clan, one of those 6 clans, even having clashed with a phantom of the spiritual consciousness left by the granddaughter of an ancient emperor of the Yen clan, Yen Linger, and he even had an ancient token of the Yen clan. Later, through Feng Ling, Yi Chun learned about the Divine Phoenix clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and the Flying Spirit clan among the 6 great ancient clans. Yi Chun's understanding of the 6 great ancient clans of the Upper Realm was growing. Now, hearing Feng Ling's words, Yi Chun's mind stirred. Feng Ling mentioned the 6 ancient clans, but this divine blood was unrelated to the Divine Phoenix, Vermilion Bird, and Flying Spirit clans. Could it be related to another of the 3 great ancient clans? Of the other 3 great ancient clans, Yi Chun only knew of the Yen clan, and the names of the 2 other ancient clans were unknown to Yi Chun. Amidst Yi Chun's conjectures, Feng Ling's voice reached him. "From this divine blood, I feel an aura that seems to be of the Blood God clan, one of the 6 ancient clans which my master mentioned in the past." As she spoke, Feng Ling's divine consciousness once again sensed the murderous aura of the divine blood on the blade, recalling what her master had told her about the Blood God clan. Feng Ling's voice finally became certain, with blood reaching the heavens and a murderous aura devouring souls. This divine blood is probably truly from the Blood God clan among the 6 great ancient clans. If this divine blood is from the Blood God clan, then this divine sword must be related to another great ancient clan that specifically opposed the Blood God clan, the Baiming clan. Blood God clan. Baiming clan. The words of Feng Ling shocked Yi Chun. He had also speculated whether this divine sword and divine blood were related to the war between the Divine Phoenix clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and the Flying Spirit clan, and even later suspected a connection with the Yen clan. Now, Phoenix Spirit was actually mentioning another 2 ancient clans he had never even heard of. Yi Chun finally learned the names of all 6 mightiest ancient clans in the Upper Realm. The Divine Phoenix clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, the Flying Spirit clan, the Yen clan, the Baiming clan, and the Blood God clan. Yi Chun, I don't know much about the Baiming clan and the Blood God clan, and I also don't know much about the Yen clan. What I do know is that the minor spirit realm's 6 ancient clans divided the realm, with the Divine Phoenix clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and the Flying Spirit clan located in the southern territories of the minor spirit realm, while the Yen clan, Baiming clan, and Blood God clan are in the northern territories. A natural chasm separates the southern and northern territories of the minor spirit realm. Hence there is little interaction between the two. Even if there is a great war involving the 3 clans from the south, the 3 clans from the north usually do not participate. I've heard that the Yen clan is the most secretive of the 6 great ancient clans. But the Blood God clan and the Baiming clan are deadly enemies. Rumor has it that both ancient clans are vying for control over the minor spirit realms, Baiming Divine Sea, and large-scale wars frequently erupt. This divine sword could well have belonged to a Void Sky True God of the Baiming clan. It became damaged during a major battle against another Void Sky True God from the Blood God clan. It was then coated with the true blood of the Blood God clan and fell from the upper realm into this lower realm. Phoenix Spirit shared her conjectures with Yi Chun. Hearing Phoenix Spirit's words, Yi Chun heaved a long sigh. He had long been told by Yen Linger that the minor spirit realm was much more perilous than the barbaric wilderness continent, with countless struggles. Turned out to be true indeed. In the south of the minor spirit realm, 3 clans waged war, while in the north, 2 ancient clans fought in blood battles. It seemed the whole minor spirit realm was shrouded in conflicts and strife. If this divine sword truly belongs to the Baiming clan, then I shall take a look and see what the interior space of a divine sword owned by one of the 6 great ancient clans of the upper realm looks like. Yi Chun looked up at the gap in the body of the divine sword, his eyes shining brightly. After the Yen clan and the Divine Phoenix clan, Yi Chun was about to come into contact with something related to the 3rd great ancient clan of the minor spirit realm. The spiritual communication between Yi Chun and Phoenix Spirit occurred in an instant, and at this moment, he had only stood next to the body of the divine sword for a short while. Then, seeing that Yi Chun had finally struck enough blood-igniting fruits to obtain 100 beams of light from the fruits, Elder Shao Supreme Elder spoke directly to Yi Chun. Yi Chun, enter the divine sword and make good use of your 1-month training period. Mu Qingqing, who was next to Elder Shao Supreme Elder, also waved her small fists at Yi Chun, smiling and cheering him on. After hearing Elder Shao Supreme Elder's words, Yi Chun nodded to Elder Shao and Mu Qingqing with a smile. He then turned his head to look at Lu Jia beside him and the 13 disciples from the Taiye sword sect within the blood-igniting fruit grove. Then, Yi Chun took a deep breath, let Phoenix Spirit's spiritual sense return to the azure blue mansion, and with a leap, he transformed into a beam of light, flying towards the damaged gap at the bottom of the divine sword's blade. Yi Chun was about to enter inside the divine sword, just as he finally flew into the body of the divine sword under the watchful eyes of a dozen onlookers, unbeknownst to everyone, even to Phoenix Spirit, from the highest point within the 10,000-meter-tall divine sword, amidst countless prohibitive formations and arrays, came an old, surprised murmur. The one who released the breath to sense me just now is such a young boy? Only 15 years old? And in this lower realm, how could there be the aura of a divine artifact upon him? In all these years, even those at the later stages of Heavenly Saint have not possessed any divine artifact aura. Strange, it's really strange. It appears I must carefully see what is special about this young boy. Perhaps my chance to return to the Baiming clan from the lower realm could very well rest upon this boy. From the words of this voice, it could be discerned that the divine sword was indeed connected to the Baiming clan of the 6 great ancient clans of the minor spirit realm. And what was even more astounding, while Phoenix Spirit had not detected the old voice within the divine sword, the old voice had clearly recognized that Phoenix Spirit originated from a divine artifact, bearing its aura. Chapter 299, Strange Beam. Phoenix Spirit was none other than a phoenix feather born from the Nirvana pool of the Divine Phoenix clan, which was later refined into the divine artifact Ice Snow Divine Fan, alongside other feathers by a Void Sky True God. In the great war of the divine Phoenix clan, that void sky true god fell, and the tens of thousands of phoenix feathers from the ice snow divine fan entered countless azure blue mansions, with phoenix spirit following into one that came to the lower realm. Apart from Yi Chun and Jiang Yao, even heavenly Saint Moya, who originally obtained the azure blue mansion, was unaware of phoenix spirit's existence. Now, the divine aura of phoenix spirit was seen through by the ancient voice at the very top of the divine sword. Clearly, the ancient voice from above might be in existence even more powerful than phoenix spirit herself. Divine artifact, the fallen sword. Within it lay such a powerful being, unnoticed even by the three late-stage heavenly saint realm palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace, and countless heavenly saint realm experts who had entered the divine sword. Of course, Yi Chun was even more unaware that he had now been noticed by this existence. At this moment, he had truly flown into the inner space of the divine sword. Is this the inner space of the divine sword? As Yi Chun flew into the divine sword from an opening at its base, the first thing he saw was formations that resembled nebulae, extending endlessly from the bottom to the boundless space above the sword. Looking at the number of these weird formations, there were easily hundreds, if not thousands. Prohibited formation array. Yi Chun immediately realized that these were the countless prohibited formation arrays Elder Shao Supreme Elder had mentioned within the inner space of the divine sword. The inner space of the divine sword was vast. It seemed tens of thousands of meters high from the outside, but inside it was like a strange space stretching endlessly upwards, with no visible end in sight. Obviously, space laws were definitely refined within it. Next to the countless prohibited formation arrays, Yi Chun felt as insignificant as an ant. Yi Chun drove his divine sense upwards toward the prohibited formation arrays, only to see a blurred vision of their exteriors. But as soon as his divine sense neared those arrays, a mysterious force expelled his divine sense, clearly beyond what his divine sense could pry into. Elder Shao Supreme Elder had said that of the countless formation arrays, even those in the late stages of the heavenly saint realm could only enter the 38 arrays at the bottom. Surely Yi Chun could not probe the higher arrays. With Yi Chun's cultivation at the spirit sea realm, he could only enter the bottom 8 prohibited formation arrays. Let's take a look at these 8 prohibited formation arrays at the bottom. Yi Chun flew towards the bottom prohibited formation arrays. While flying, Yi Chun noticed 23 disciples cultivating within the 8 prohibited formation arrays that could be entered by spirit sea realm disciples at the bottom. Those guards who previously defended the divine sword, Lu and the others, mentioned that 35 disciples from the Taie sword sect had already arrived in the divine sword, cultivating inside the prohibited formation arrays. It seems these 23 are the spirit sea realm disciples among them. The other 12 must be cultivating in higher prohibited formation arrays. With my true chi cultivation, I can't see them. Yi Chun flew while observing these 23 Taie sword sect spirit sea realm disciples. At this point, many of them were meditating with closed eyes within the 8 prohibited formation arrays, while others were looking around within the arrays, turning their gazes towards Yi Chun, who was flying past and who wasn't wearing the Taie sword sect's dress, appearing somewhat curious. After smiling at these people, Yi Chun flew towards the 18 wind beads formation at the very bottom. The 18 wind beads formation, one of the countless great formations within the divine sword at the very bottom, was constructed from 18 huge spherical wind beads. At that time, 2 spirit sea realm disciples from the Taie sword sect were cultivating within the 18 wind beads formation. One could see that their clothes and hair were fluttering loudly in the formation. Clearly, there was an extraordinary power of wind within the 18 wind beads formation. Yi Chun glanced at the 18 wind beads formation, and then looked up to the second formation above it, the heavenly thunder formation. In the past, inside the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, Senior Qian Ji demonstrated both wind's concept and thunder's intent to me, and Senior Qian Ji came from the Taie sword sect. Perhaps these two concepts were what he had comprehended inside this divine sword. Now that I have the chance to be here inside the divine sword, I will start by entering the 18 wind beads formation, to see how the concept within differs from what Senior Qian Ji demonstrated to me. Moving in spirit, Yi Chun flew into the 18 wind beads formation. As Yi Chun flew in, he felt as if his entire being had plunged into the ocean of a storm. Gentle breezes, Fierce winds, hurricanes, countless sensations of the wind swept across his body and soul, and in an instant, Yichen felt as though he was back in the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, experiencing the wind's concept as performed by heavenly Saint Qian-ji. This 18 wind beads formation really bore a remarkable resemblance to the wind's concept practiced by heavenly Saint Qian-ji. The only difference was that the wind's concept within this 18 wind beads formation was even more complex and profound. Having already grasped the wind's concept, Yichen decided to sit cross-legged in this 18 wind beads formation, just like the other two disciples from Taiye Sword Sect, to further experience the uniqueness of the wind's concept. Just as he had begun to sit down, something unexpected happened. As soon as Yichen sat down inside the formation, the 18 wind beads suddenly emitted countless weird beams. These beams quickly formed bundles of light, encompassing Yichen entirely within. The anomaly of the 18 wind beads startled the other two Taiye Sword Sect disciples practicing in the formation, awakening them from their meditation. When they saw Yichen shrouded in light beams, they exclaimed in surprise, "Weird beams? Is this the weird beam recorded in the divine sword record of our sect?" Amid the astonished shouts of the two Taiye Sword Sect disciples, a disciple from the nearby Heavenly Thunder Formation heard their cries, flew out, and arrived at the 18 wind beads formation. On seeing the weird beams around Yichen, this disciple was equally shocked. The divine sword record of our sect, which contains the account of practicing within the divine sword, mentions that only the most exceptional talents are enveloped by the weird beam when they enter the divine sword. Over the years, every disciple covered by the weird beam has achieved great success, and even a few from the rotating pill realm later successfully advanced into the heavenly saint realm. Who is this young man to also be enveloped by the weird beam? The last time the weird beam appeared was 4 years ago. That disciple is now the strongest among our Taiye Sword Sect disciples in the Spirit Sea realm, Elder Xiaofeng. Elder Xiaofeng has now comprehended 3 high-level sword formations and even ranks among the top few when clashing with other talented sword cultivators from the Central Region's 3rd-rank sword sects. Having been enveloped by the weird beam, could this young man be another extraordinary talent like Elder Xiaofeng? Boom! 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 As these people were talking, Yichen, shrouded in the light beams, suddenly emitted a weird cyan beam from his body. In the blink of an eye, a second and a third weird beam followed in succession. Seeing these weird beams shooting out from Yichen, the Taiye Sword Sect disciples screamed even louder. According to the divine sword record and the testimonials of those talented disciples who were enveloped by the weird beam, they all entered an indescribable trial. The result of that trial was related to these cyan beams that shot out. The earlier the cyan beams shoot out, the stronger the natural talent. The more cyan beams there are, the greater the potential. This young man, immediately after being enveloped by the weird beam, shot out cyan beams. And judging by the timing, it seems even shorter than when Elder Xiaofeng did years ago. The strange phenomena happening to Yichen and the shrill screams of the Taiye Sword Sect disciples caught the attention of other disciples practicing in the higher-up prohibited formation arrays. Many now flew towards the 18 wind beads formation to observe. Eventually, in the entire Spirit Sea realm training area, out of the 23 disciples in the 8 major prohibited formation arrays, aside from 3 who remained in meditation, the other 20 had flown into the 18 wind beads formation to watch Yichen. Even from the higher rotating pill realm training area, 3 people had come over. By this time, the cyan beams that had burst from Yichen numbered 3 to 4 dozen. There are already 38 cyan beams that have burst forth so quickly. Judging by this speed, the final count of cyan beams for this young man definitely won't be low. Years ago, Elder Xiaofeng shot out 625 cyan beams. The highest number of cyan beams recorded in the Divine Sword record, burst by our Taiye Sword Sect's 9 Swords Heavenly Saint, was 1,235. I wonder how many this young man can burst out. 26 Taiye Sword Sect disciples stood not far from Yichen, enveloped by the weird beams, marveling at this rare sight seen only once in many years. At that moment, another 3 Tae sword sect disciples flew into the divine sword. These 3 were part of the 13 who had previously hammered on the blood-igniting fruits in the blood-igniting fruit grove. Following Yi-chan, they too had gathered 100 fruits. What's going on? Upon entering the divine sword, these 3 immediately saw the crowd of people gathered in the lowest 18 wind beads formation. The 18 wind beads formation, being at the very bottom, was usually sparsely populated, but this time around it was crowded with 20 to 30 people, which was highly unusual to these 3. When they, too, flew into the 18 wind beads formation and saw Yi-chan wrapped in the weird beams, they cried out incredulously. Isn't that the amazing young man who gathered 100 blood ignition fruits in an instant just now? That around his body, is it the weird beam recorded in the divine sword record of our sect? Over 40 cyan beams already, this young man was simply astonishing when gathering blood ignition fruits outside, and now that he's entered the divine sword, equally amazing, to be enveloped by the weird beam and to have triggered cyan beams? The 3 new Tae sword sect disciples who had just entered the divine sword were completely astonished. Chapter 300. The Ancient Path and the Green Lantern. The astonished words of the 3 drew the attention of others. Recognizing the trio, a disciple asked one of them, "Yunhua, do you know this young man? What do you mean he blasted enough blood ignition fruits in just a moment? And who exactly is this young man, do you know?" These disciples from Tae sword sect, who had entered the divine sword earlier, were unaware of Yi-chen's fruit blasting outside the divine sword. Who this young man is, I do not know, but I do know that he was brought here personally by our sect's most powerful elder Shao Supreme Elder. Even Senior Lu Jia, the guardian of the divine sword, specially guided this young man, showing him where to blast the blood ignition fruits. Moreover, right before this young man entered the divine sword, guess how long it took him to blast the blood ignition fruits? He didn't even take the time of an incense stick to blast enough for 100 blood ignition fruits. I've never seen a disciple of the Spirit Sea realm blast enough fruits so quickly. The Tae sword sect disciple named Yunhua exclaimed. The other 2 beside him chimed in. It's not just the speed of blasting the blood ignition fruits that's fast. This young man is simply too incredible. Even the blood ignition fruits with escaping speed of the spinning pill's later stages, this young man could blast them. He didn't even choose specific blood ignition fruits to blast. He just struck at will. And yet, none of the fruits with escaping speed could evade his palm. In my opinion, his strength must have reached the later stages of the spinning pill. Even if his power hasn't reached there, his speed can certainly match that of the powerhouses in the spinning pill's later stages. The words of the 3 caused the rest of the Tae sword sect disciples to look at each other with surprise in their eyes. Elder Shao Supreme Elder personally brought him here to the divine sword. Senior Lu Jia, a powerhouse of the later stages of spinning pill and the guardian of the divine sword, personally led the way. In less than the time it takes an incense stick to burn, he blasted enough for 100 blood ignition fruits. The blood ignition fruits with escaping speed of the later stages of spinning pill couldn't escape his grasp. Hearing about these miraculous deeds and looking at Yi-chan enveloped in strange beams of light, continuously emitting cyan rays from his body, the disciples from Tae sword sect within the divine sword all exclaimed in their hearts. Where does this extraordinary young man come from? The disciples of Tae sword sect inside the divine sword were incredibly shocked. Outside the divine sword, within the void. At this moment, Elder Shao Supreme Elder and Mu Qingqing were also looking at the massive body of the divine sword. Even Lu Jia and the other protector sword disciples were looking towards the body of the divine sword. They could only see that as Yi-chan entered a mysterious state, surrounded by the strange beams and bursting with cyan rays from his body, on the exterior of the divine sword, the massive blade began to show emerging cyan patterns as well. And comparing them closely, one could see that the number of cyan rays Yi-chan emitted inside the divine sword exactly matched the number of cyan patterns appearing on the blade's exterior, and both were still increasing. I knew that Yi-chan might enter into the divine sword's mysterious restrictions. I just didn't expect him to actually activate them, Elder Shao Supreme Elder said within the void. a glint of brilliance in his eyes as he looked at the cyan patterns on the divine sword. Standing beside Elder Shao, Mu Qingqing giggled. Elder Shao, Yi Chun is a true genius. Over the years, all the real geniuses who have entered the divine sword have managed to trigger those mysterious restrictions and enter the ancient path Green Lantern space to find out the number of their divine soul's innate potential. It's no surprise that Yi Chun is no exception. I expected this all along. Judging by the look on Mu Qingqing's face, she didn't seem at all surprised that Yi Chun was engulfed by the strange light beam and burst out with a cyan light. Upon hearing Mu Qingqing's words, Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded as well. All these years, the ancient Path Qing lamp space has indeed appeared intermittently. The three palace masters once said that perhaps within the divine sword, there are still secrets we know nothing about. After all, this is a divine artifact. However, that ancient Path Qing lamp space is indeed marvelous. Every cultivator who can trigger this forbidden space to appear is a genius. That this situation occurred with Yi Chun does add a bit more confidence in his cultivation at the First Holy Temple. It's just unknown how much of his divine soul's innate potential will be exposed under the irradiation of the ancient Path Qing lamps. The higher the divine soul's innate potential, the stronger the cultivation talent potential. After all, the divine soul is the most important of the three life vital signs: essence, qi, and spirit. In my opinion, the number representing Yi Chen's divine soul's innate potential will definitely not be low. It's very likely to be even higher than mine, said Mu Qingqing with a sly glint in her eyes. When I entered the ancient Path Qing lamp space, the number representing my divine soul's innate potential was 1,532. My grandfather said that this number was already extremely high. Many heavenly saints don't have such high divine soul innate potential. Having high divine soul innate potential allows one to specifically cultivate divine soul type secret arts. With the divine soul type secret arts, coupled with true qi secret skills and physical combat skills, all three major forces, essence, qi, and spirit, can be elevated. That's true strength. I don't think Yi Chun has ever cultivated divine soul type secret arts. Otherwise, I would have been discovered by him a long time ago as I followed his trail. Among his many techniques, the divine soul is the weakest. It's still adequate at the spirit sea realm, but stepping into the rotating Dan, especially the heavenly saint realm later on, divine soul secret arts become very important. This time, if his divine soul's innate potential is enough, later in the heavenly sacred palace, he can specifically cultivate divine soul secret arts. Elder Shao Supreme Elder nodded continuously at Mu Qingqing's words. Let's just see the number of his divine soul's innate potential first. Back then, the strongest divine soul's innate potential number was from the most powerful among our three palace masters, Palace Master Yuan Li, whose divine soul reached an astonishing 3,865. That's just the divine soul's innate potential. Coupled with the development of the divine soul's acquired potential, Palace Master Yuan Li, with just the divine soul techniques alone, could cultivate to an extremely terrifying extent. Palace Master Yuan Li is truly formidable. She's much younger than my grandfather but is the most powerful among the three palace masters. Unfortunately, she ordered that the divine soul innate potential of heavenly sacred palace martial artists not be recorded. Otherwise, Elder Shao, the first name for divine soul innate potential in your Tai sword sex, divine sword record, wouldn't be 9 swords heavenly saint. Mine is already stronger than 9 swords heavenly saint's divine soul innate potential. Our palace master Yuan Li would rank even higher, Mu Qingqing said with a chuckle. Inside the divine sword, within the 18 wind beads formation, many disciples were paying attention to Yi Chun. Meanwhile, outside the divine sword, Elder Shao Supreme Elder and Mu Qingqing were discussing the divine soul's innate potential. The moment he was engulfed by the strange light beam, Yi Chun felt his entire divine soul entering an unknown space. This mysterious feeling astonished Yi Chun. He had not the slightest defense. He had just sat down within the 18 wind beads formation, Even before he could react or detect it with Phoenix spirit, he was drawn into this unknown space, naturally shocking him. I did not expect that within the divine sword space, there is still a more mysterious space hidden. Where is this? Yichun looked around the space he was in. At this moment, his divine soul was drawn into this place, and many of his techniques like the Azure Blue Mansion, Flying Swords, Heavenly Saint Law Bead, and others were still with his physical body. Without many techniques at his disposal in this mysterious space, Yichun had to be even more careful. As Yichun surveyed the area, he found himself at the entrance to an ancient path. On both sides of the ancient path was a dark, empty space that evidently could not be stepped into. Looking down the ancient path, Yichun saw a series of Qing lamps lit on both sides. The lamps flickered faintly like beans, swaying gently. Yichun felt a soft glow coming from the lamps, making his entire divine soul feel incredibly comfortable.